Imagine getting bullied so bad that you went and bought a Ouija board to make it all stop. Yes, cousins, we're back with another story time. Let's get into it. Okay, so there was a set of triplets, identical triplets at that. Now, one girl in particular stayed getting bullied because she was like the standoffish one and the shy one. So their names are Sierra, she's the oldest, Tiara, she's the middle, and also the ones that's getting bullied, and Kiera. They're all 5 minutes apart, and growing up, they spent their whole life together. Same school, same church, same household, just same everything. So over the years, Tiara's self-esteem kept dropping lower and lower because she kept getting bullied, despite the fact she had two sisters. So by this time, Tiara's in the 7th grade. Now she's scrolling online and she happens to see a Ouija board. She ended up ordering one using her mother's credit card at that, but when it came in the mail, she hid it from everybody. Now she's secretly playing with this Ouija board over and over and over. Now she's becoming very standoffish from Kiera and Sierra because she's so focused on this Ouija board. Little did she know what's about to happen. So 2 weeks go by and nothing is happening that she wanted to happen. So one particular day as she's playing with this board, she tells the board, if nothing happens, I'm going to break you and throw you away for good. So she's shouting at this board like, how are you supposed to help me if nothing that I want done is happening? So she gets frustrated. She puts the board back into the box. She put it in her book bag and she pushes it under her bed. So that same night, after everyone went to sleep and she thought she was going to sleep, her bed started to shake. And not only did that, she started seeing shadows in her room. All of this is going on. Tiara is the only one awake. Mind you, her other two sisters are in the room with her. But she said she was not scared. So she went under her bed to get the Ouija board. She's talking to it while she's under the bed. And when she happened to look across, she's seeing a pair of shoes on the other side of the bed. Now that did startle her a little bit because she knew when she came from under this bed, she's probably going to see something. So as she comes from under the bed, she see a shadow sitting on the edge of her bed from the neck down. So she asks it, why are you here? Are you here to come and take me? And she said, he said, no, I'm here to help you. So Tiara started smiling. So the shadow told her he knew everything that she was going through and he was going to take care of it. So Tiara asks him, well, how are you going to take care of it? So he taps his hand across her bed and says, don't worry about it. Just know I'm going to take care of it. What all do you want me to do? So she tells him she wants all the bullying to stop as soon as possible, and she wants them all to pay for what they did and said to her, and she wants a front row seat to it. Then to make her a lovable person that has a lot of friends that would never harm her. So he said, okay, done. However, I have a small fee for myself. So Tiara said, sure, I'll do whatever to make this go away. Now Tiara still cannot see his face. Now he told her what he wanted from Tiara. However, she wasn't fully paying attention because she realized that the voice sounded so familiar. So as he's stating what he wanted, she's focused on the voice and she shakes his hand in agreement without even knowing what he just said to her. So he left. Tiara went to sleep. So the morning comes, she wakes up like nothing happened. She gets ready with her sisters. They wash up and they go have breakfast. Now it was a Saturday, so they all planned on spending the night over at their cousin's house because also it's Halloween as well. So the triplets and all the cousins end up going to a Halloween party, which was a haunted shed. Now, Sierra and Kiera was very protective over Tiara, so they already knew once they got to this party, they was going to have their eyes and attention locked on Tiara to make sure that she was good to go. So as they walk into this haunted shed, that's when everything took a turn for the worse. She said it felt like the whole room changed into this creepy cornfield with all of these bad spirits in there. And somehow, some way, they all got split up. But the shadow deity that came to visit Tiara the night before, what he wanted was souls that she agreed to give him. That's exactly what he took from this party. Tiara says she witnessed her own sisters, Kiera and Sierra's souls, leave their body. So Tiara starts to bawl her eyes out. The deity looks at her and tells her, there's no need to cry. We had a deal. The ones that was actually hurting and harming you was your own two sisters. I witnessed them do unthinkable things to you and also heard conversations about you that you didn't hear. The deity said he was coming back into this life as another life, so he had to fulfill his dues and collect souls. So Tiara's like, no, you're lying. So he began to show her conversations that she was not a part of that Sierra and Kiera was having about her. Right after that, she passed out. She ended up waking up at home looking for this Ouija board that was nowhere to be found. Outside of this Ouija board disappearing, there was also no knowledge of her even having any sisters. There was no pictures, there was no bed, there was nothing, but she do know she had memories of her sisters. Remember the credit card, her mom credit card that she used to buy that Ouija board? There wasn't even a trace of a payment on her mom card statement. Tiara said it was like their existence was just wiped from this earth. But she immediately gained new friends that replaced her sisters. Yeah. I actually got submitted this story at 2:23 in the morning. Yeah. Very interesting. Anyway, if you guys have any stories that you want to submit to me, make sure you guys DM it to me or make sure you guys send it to my email that's in my bio. All right, I'll be back with another story time. Until then, enjoy this.
Okay, now listen to this crazy story. It is 100% true. I'm not lying about this, okay? It's gonna sound crazy, but it 100% happened to us. So, when me, my mama, and my baby brother lived in Rochester, Minnesota, we lived in this apartment building, and it was an entity, like a demon, in the apartment that looked like me. I know. Imagine me being the person, right? So what had happened was, we lived in this apartment building, and my mama rule when it came to going out for me was my curfew's 11 o'clock. If you cannot make it back in this house by 11 o'clock, wherever you are, make sure you can spend the night there. Because if you're going to blatantly disrespect me by not following my house rules, then you won't be in my house. And as an adult, okay. Even as a kid, I said, well, I just won't come in. So anytime I wasn't in my room, my door was open. Because what do I need to close for? Ain't nothing in there. But when I'm there, my door is closed. And so one night, I'm out because I knew I wasn't coming back. And I told my mama, I'm going out. She was like, I already know. I packed my little spending the night bag. And I was in the streets. So my baby brother slept in my room. So that means the door is closed because it's not me in there, but it is a human being in there. And so we call my baby brother Foots. His real name is Larry, though. But so Foots is in my room and the door is closed. Supposedly, this is what my mom said. I come in the house at like maybe 10:30 in the morning, 11 o'clock, because you could come back home. You just can't come home after the curfew in the middle of the night. You just have to wait till the next day, daytime, to come home. So I'm coming home with my bag, and my mama's sitting on the couch. I said, what I do? I already knew I did something. She was like, what I tell you about coming in this house after the curfew and then coming in my room messing with shit on my dresser? I said, I wasn't here last night. She was like, Michelle, yes, you was. You was in my room looking for something. I don't even know what you was looking for. I said, here is my bag. I said, do you want me to call the people who I was with last night? They will tell you I was with them at their house last night. She was like, call them. Because I don't. So me and my baby brother always pranked my mama. We just thought it was so funny. We just thought, I don't know, just being kids, I guess. So she like, between you and Foots, I don't trust y'all. You could have been staying out to try to do this prank on me. And she not wrong. It's something I would do, but it wasn't me. So I called my friend, hey, wasn't I with you last night? All last night. She's like, yeah, you were. And my mom was like, I said, why you say I came home? She said, girl, because you came in my bedroom, like kind of slid in. You didn't open the door. You cracked the door. You slid into the room, and you was kind of just patting around on a dresser, not looking up, but just patting on top of things, like just patting on a dresser. And then when I said, like, girl, what do you want? You just turned around and left. She was like, I didn't even see your face. I knew it was you because it looked like from when you walked in, it looked like you, and you just walked out. I said, Mama, that wasn't me. That was not me. I was not here. So I'm like, Foots, did I come in the room last night? He was like, no, you was gone all night. I said, exactly. She was like, well, that's strange. Well, I don't know, because it sounds like y'all not trying to run no prank on me. I said, we're really not trying to run no prank. So a couple of months passed, and it happened again, but I was home. So me and my baby brother was in my room chilling. We fall asleep in my room. My room door is closed because I'm in the room. So it was like in the middle of the night. It had to be like 1 a.m. I heard my mama come in my room, but I didn't wake up because she just like cracked the door. but she didn't like come in, but I heard her crack the door. And so I'm like, whatever, like if she needs something, she'll wake me up. So, I'm still asleep. She go back in her room. She come back in the room maybe an hour or so later, and she was like, Michelle. And this me, I'm deep sleep now. Deep waking up ugly, like, what? She was like, you wasn't just in my room? I'm like, no, I was not in your room. She said, girl, when I say I just seen something that looked just like you doing the same thing then when you wasn't here that night, just touching around on my dresser, slid in the room, you didn't open the door, whatever it was. I said, stop saying it's me. She said, whatever it was, it don't open the door all the way. It just cracked the door a little bit. It just slides in the room and you just start patting and looking on my dresser. And she said, but this time, when I said, Michelle, what the hell are you looking for on my dresser? She said it turned around and said nothing and just walked out. And she was like, and that's why I came over to your room, because there is no way you can walk out my room. And it's not like a big apartment. It was like a short hallway between her room and my room. And she like, there was no way you could have ran back in here, jumped in the bed, and act like you was asleep if it was you. I said, I'm telling you, it was not me. It wasn't me. And so she was like, okay, we gonna go to church. So Rochester only had like one church that I knew of. And everybody went to the same church, but the church was really lame. So we would be on and off going to the church. So my mom like, we going to the church because we need somebody up in here to start praying for real. Because maybe my prayers ain't getting through. Or whatever. So the priest or the pastor of the church, he come with a couple of other people from the church. And he's like, as soon as he walked in, he was like, yeah, it's definitely something in here. But what's in here is kind of sneaky. Like, I can sense it. It's like, I can feel it. That it's in here, but it's like hiding really good. And I don't know where it's hiding. But it's like strong and weak at the same time. And so he like, I need all the kids to get out. Get out. I'm trying to see too. I'm trying to see what's going on around here. Because it's me. Why you using me? Right? So we go out in the hallway. We were supposed to leave out of the building. But we so damn nosy. So we go outside and we just hear rack. And so next minute we know, it like a bunch of ruckus is going on in the house. Then it just get quiet. Y'all, my hair is crazy. Look at this. Sorry. Then it just gets quiet. And the pastor was like, hold on, no. It's not gone. It's still in here. And we like, what? And so next minute we know, again, a lot of ruckus. The door flies open. The front door flies open. And it's like a gush of wind. No lie. If I'm lying, I am flying, y'all. I'm not lying. Next minute we know, we have the apartment that we stayed in, it was like a storage room right across the hall from us like this. And it was always locked because, as y'all know, my mama moved a lot. So we didn't really accumulate too much stuff. We just lived off whatever we needed. And so the storage room was right across the way from our apartment. And so when the door flinged open, my mama like, yeah, it's gone now for sure. And so the pastor, he's just walking through the house to do like a final whatever. And he's like, yeah, it's not in here, but it is still here. And my mom was like, what? Like, why would the door fly open? If he was like, I don't know where it is now. I don't think it's in your apartment. I don't think it's in these four walls, but it's still in here because I can sense it. The pastor again say, kids, y'all need to get out of the apartment building. Y'all need to go outside and stand on the front, like on the pavement, like out of the building. And so we did leave the building, but we went and stood like on the back side of the apartment building where we can still kind of see, kind of hear what's going on. So as we're listening to what's going on, the pastor was like, it's in that storage room. The storage room's locked. We've never opened the storage room. We never removed the key from the storage room. He said it's in the storage room. And I think what's been happening is that people have probably came and prayed, and it goes out in the storage room, and people don't sense it in the house anymore. And so they think that it's gone, and it's not. It's hiding. Just like it was hiding somewhere in here, it could have never been hiding in here. It could have always been in the storage room. Okay. So, I'm going to make a part 2 to finish it up. Okay, this part 2 of the demon that was in our apartment in Rochester that was looking like me. So, the pastor cast the demon out of the house. So, the door opens up, you feel the wind, you feel everything leaves the house. So, the pastor tell the kids, y'all need to go out the building because this is serious. Like, y'all can't be around because y'all are like sensitive humans. Like, it can attach to y'all. We hard-headed. We still close enough to kind of see, kind of hear what's going on in the apartment. So we lived upstairs, but it was like the echo in the apartment. You can hear what's going on downstairs outside. So we listened closely, and the pastor, like, the demon or entity that was in your apartment, we had a storage room door on the other side of our apartment like this. We never unlocked. When he cast it out of the house, it went into the storage room. The pastor said when he came in, he can sense that the demon was hiding somewhere. And he thought like somewhere in the house. But the whole time he said he think that it's been in the storage room. That's where it hides. So when people come, like pastors and all that stuff, it does technically get out of the house. So the praying and stuff isn't necessarily affecting it because it's hiding in the storage room. So he's like, he even told my mama, he was like, honestly, I may need you to leave because if it's this clever, this is either something that's been around here a long time or something. But I need everybody that did not come with me from the church. I need y'all outside. When I say that man and them people got to war with this thing, never unlock the storage room. It stayed locked. And he said, I'm not going to come in there and get you. But you coming out. And they just got the praying. When I say that thing ripped the hinges off of the storage room. And it sound like, I don't know if y'all ever been around a bunch of elementary school kids coming down the stairs. How it's just like pat, 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 pat. Just a bunch of little feet like running at one time coming down. That's what it sound like. That thing ripped out of that damn storage room. Boom! And it sounds like a whole bunch of people was running down the stairs, like out of the building. And so the pastor put like salt or something down. I mean, we was really like scared at that point. So we really did move away. So I'm not sure what the salt did. I think probably stopped it from coming back in. I'm not sure. But when it was said and done, because everybody in the building heard it, it was just like a threeplex. And so it was us at the top and 2 people below us, like basement apartments. And so the people in the basement apartments was like, it's so crazy that it was actually something in that apartment because before y'all moved in, the people that lived up there, we think they was doing some type of voodoo or whatever, or maybe the people before them, we don't know who brought it in. But even when people was not home, because she said at one point it was just a single woman living up there. And she would go to work every day from 9 to 5. And from 9 to 5, she said she would hear people talking in that apartment. She would hear people walking around in it. And it's me. Now, you've been knowing us for at least a solid 4 months. And you never thought to tell us that. And I'm still wondering why the hell was it disguised as me? That was the mind-blowing part of the story. But yeah, that thing, I still don't know what it is to this day. But thank God it was gone. But that was like one of we low-key, not always, but we lived in a couple of like spooky houses or whatever. But yeah.
So imagine you making your daughter's bottle and you sit it down on the countertop and it goes from one side to the next by itself. What's up, cousins? So yes, I am back with another story time. Let's not waste no time and let's get into it. For the story, we're going to call her Desiree. So Desiree is pregnant at the time. Her boyfriend is out house hunting, looking for them a nice house because he just got a good job, making some good money. So they came across this 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, and they was actually remodeling the house. It was construction going on right then and there. So they knew, okay, once all this get done, this house gonna be fire. So as they see the construction people working on the house, they end up making a stop and talking to them. And the construction workers end up giving them the owner's number. So they called the owners up. So the owner's like, hey, you give us a deposit, we'll save the house for you right now. So what they do next? Put the deposit down for that house. Let's not forget, Desiree is pregnant. Now, fast forward, she's giving birth. Now, the same day that she gives birth is the same day that the house owners call her boyfriend and tells him, hey, the house is ready, y'all can move in. So you know what her boyfriend did? Packed their ass up and moved them right on in that house while she was in the hospital. Desiree said she should have knew something was off with how cheap the rent was. So she gets out the hospital, she goes into the house, and she noticing, damn, like, it's cold in here. Mind you, it's summertime, and she's in South Carolina. So she's like, why is it so cold? So she's cleaning the house from the top to the bottom, cleaning the windows, cleaning the floors, mopping, spraying, doing the whole nine while her baby daddy is at work. Boom, the second night come, her daughter crying, she wants her a bottle, so she goes in there to make her daughter a bottle. Now, after she gets done making the bottle, she places the bottle down on the countertop. The bottle moved from one side of the counter to the other side of the counter and then back to where it started. Desiree could not believe what she just saw. Like, literally, she did not believe it. So she ended up taking a napkin and wiping the excess milk from the bottle because she's thinking maybe it has something to do with the excess milk. Maybe it moved itself. Maybe she just had so many things going through her head because she just could not believe what just happened. So next, she set the bottle on top of the microwave. And what happened? The same thing. The bottle moved from where it was at to the other end of the microwave and then back where it started. Desiree was so scared at this point. She packed up that milk, she packed up that water, that bottle, and her daughter and went back into the living room because she said she was not going into any other part of that house until her boyfriend got home. He didn't get off work till 11 o'clock at night. And mind you, when all this is occurring, it's only 9 o'clock. Desiree had to use the bathroom so bad, but she did not care. She held it as long as she could because she said she was not going in any parts of that house. So when he got home, she told him what was going on, and he's like, nah, it ain't happened. You know, stuff like that don't happen to black people. So he did not believe anything that she was saying. So he ended up convincing her that she was tripping, that she was delusional, and whatever she thought that happened didn't happen, and she believed him. So the next day come and her mother come over to help her get the house in order, you know, putting things up, unpacking stuff, just helping her because they only been in the house for 3 days. And mind you, she just had a little girl 5 days prior. So boom, all of that gets done. So Desiree's tired. She's laying down with her baby, just chilling. She hears the garage door open and shut, open and shut. So she's thinking, maybe it's her boyfriend going in and out the door. That's what she's thinking. So she gets up. She put the baby down. She gets up. She go see what's going on. However, no one's there. It's just her and her daughter. When she goes into the garage, she sees that her boyfriend isn't even in the house because his car isn't in the garage nor outside. So she's thinking, nah, like I'm tripping. And at this time, she didn't have a house phone and she did not have a cell phone. The only phone they had was her boyfriend phone. So she's scared at this point. So what she did was she took her behind back to her room with her daughter and she stayed in that room because she said she was not going in any other parts of that house. So he comes home, she's telling him her experiences that was happening that day. And once again, he does not believe her and he tells her she's tripping. So fast forward, by this time, they done spent a week in this house. Now, the 8th day that they was in this house, when Desiree woke up, she woke up and found her daughter, her newborn daughter, unresponsive, and she passed away. Desiree strongly feels her daughter's unaliving has something to do with the house they moved into. So after her daughter passed away, she did not go back into the house. She ended up staying with her mom for about a month. So her and her boyfriend is trying to get some things together to figure out what they're going to do because they just moved in the house, which means they cannot break this lease. So after a month goes by, Desiree decides to move back in the house. Now, she only felt comfortable, some type of comfort moving back into the house is if his brother and his sister, her boyfriend, brother, and sister moved into the house as well. That way, she wasn't alone whenever her boyfriend goes to work. So everything ended up working out because the boyfriend, sister, and brother needed somewhere to stay anyway. So Desiree moves back into the house. Now, her and her boyfriend are just chilling on the couch. They're just watching TV, just talking and communicating, you know, trying to get through a tough time. Now, as they're talking, they see an orb come out of the floor with their deceased daughter's face on it. She said the orb came out of the floor and left out of the house. Her and her baby daddy looked at each other and said, "Did you just see that?" So 2 days later, after this happened, she said her baby father came to her and told her that he cheated on her while she was pregnant with their daughter that just passed away. And not only did he just cheat on her, he cheated on her with her own sister. Now, in the past, Desiree did ask him, was anything going on between him and one of her sisters, and he denied it. She asked him that while she was pregnant, and he just denied it, and guess what? Denied it. Her boyfriend stated that after their daughter passed away and after seeing the orb with her face on it, he just felt like he had to come clean. So now Desiree is feeling another heartbreak on top of another heartbreak. Now, before, the sister and the brother was staying with Desiree's sister, the one that he cheated with. So everyone knew except Desiree. So she tells her boyfriend he has to go stay at his mama's house. So she said after that had happened, she's doing laundry and she hear Ronnie going up and down the stairs while she's crying doing her laundry. She was so scared at that point, she ran out of that washroom. Mind you, she's there by herself because she just told her boyfriend to go back to his mama's house. So she's extremely scared. She got the rest of her kids. She went into her room and she said she cried all night. Now, the next morning when she woke up, she said she put her kids in the playroom and she went down to go finish the laundry. As she got done with the laundry, she ended up walking around her house and speaking to whatever this thing was and saying, I mean no harm. You know, whoever you are, we can coexist. Just please stop scaring me. She said as soon as she said that, she heard stumping going around the attic. She said it was nothing in this attic but a fan, but all you kept hearing was stumping, stumping, stumping. So she calls her mom. Her mom comes over and asks her what's wrong. So she's telling her mom everything that's happened. So the mom is like, well, what you gonna do because you can't live with me because she already have her other sisters living with her and the sisters are pregnant. Now, remember the boyfriend, sister, and brother supposed to move into their house. However, they didn't live there at the moment. They was moving in a week later. So Desiree asked her mom, could she just stay with her for a week until the brother and sisters get to the house so she won't be there alone. So the mom agrees. Desiree go live with her mom for a week. A week passes by. The brother and sister moves into her house. So Desiree goes back to her home. So Desiree and the sister is sitting down talking, having a conversation, and they hear something in the attic. Now, Desiree says she heard it, but she didn't say anything because she wanted to see if the sister was going to say anything. The sister did say something and asked her, did she hear that? Desiree said yes. Remember the fan that was in the attic? Like one of the fans you just plug up that you can buy from like Walmart, Family Dollar? That fan was sliding back and forth across the floor. The sister asks, how is it moving? Desiree told her, well, it's a ghost in here. And the sister's like, what do you mean it's a ghost? Desiree said, well, I've been telling y'all it's a ghost in here, but no one wants to believe me. So both of them went and grabbed the Bible, walked around the house praying and saying certain verses from the Bible. So after going around the house with the Bible, Desiree did say, okay, the activity in the house calmed down. So she felt like it worked until it didn't because that was short-lived. However, I am running out of time. I will be back for a part 2 on this. If you have any stories that you want to submit, please DM them to me or email it to the email that's in my bio. What's up, cousins? So I'm back for part 2 of Desiree's story. Okay, so after they got them reading the Bible verses and praying, and she did say the activity in the house did calm down, so she felt like, okay, maybe this worked. Until it didn't. So her birthday is coming up. Her birthday's on a Thursday. She go out, she have a good time. Friday comes around, her and her boyfriend get into a big fight in the hallway. He beats Desiree in the face to where she has 2 black eyes, a concussion, and he almost dislocated her jaw. She ended up in a hospital the day after her birthday. Now, she said that a woman came and visited her. She was short, she was pale, she had long black hair, but she did not understand what she was saying, and she didn't even know who the lady was. Now, mind you, this is before she even gets to the hospital. So she's riding in the ambulance, and the lady gets in the ambulance with her, the lady that she's seeing, and she's confused because Desiree knows she's knocked out, but she's not understanding why she sees this woman and wondering why no one else sees this woman. So after she gained consciousness and comes back to herself, she tells her mom what she saw. Her mom said that that was her mother, which would have been Desiree's grandmother, who's deceased. Okay, so fast forward, she's in the hospital and the doctors and the nurses is asking her like, hey, did you and someone get into a physical altercation? And she's like, no, it was an accident. So after she didn't healed up enough, she leaves the hospital and she go back home. Now she's go back home and she's looking at herself in the bathroom mirror. She see 2 black eyes. Her nose is all red and bruised up. And she said as she's looking into the mirror, she see the bathroom shower curtain behind her swaying back and forth. So she pulls the shower curtain back and of course, no one's there. She's not surprised. Desiree is aggravated and agitated at this point because she has a concussion, the way she looks, she can't go to sleep, and she's dealing with this ghost. So she asks the ghost, why do you keep bothering me? She said this is the first time this thing ever talked back to her, and it told her to go. She said, and guess what she did? She didn't go. She didn't. And she said she should have. She should have left, but she didn't. After Desiree heard the voice, she didn't even run. She actually walked outside and sat outside because she was so drained. She has 2 black eyes. She can't call her boyfriend because of the altercation they just got in. She cannot call her brother's sister because she actually heard what they was saying over her body, thinking her body was lifeless, and they thought that she couldn't. They thought she could not hear them because she was unconscious. However, she said she heard every single thing they said and was planning to do. She couldn't call her mom because the mom didn't even know she had 2 black eyes. So even after all of this going on, she still decided to stay in the house where paranormal things still occurred and got worse and worse, and even started messing with the sister and brother. Now, if you guys have any stories that you want to submit, make sure that you guys DM them to me, or you can submit it to the email that's in my bio, okay?
Do you guys want to hear something crazy? No, really, this is bizarre. When I was a baby, my mom met a man. She married him. He raised me until I was 8 years old. I thought he was my father. He was my stepfather. One day he went to the store. He never came back. I did not see him for 21, 22 years. If you hear licking sounds, it's my cat. These 2 paintings were in the dining room of my childhood home. And then when I became school age, I would come home from school. I would sit right in front of them and I would speak to them as if they were my parents. I would talk to them. I had some weird connection. Right around this time, from like toddler to like 6, 7 years old, every night before I went to bed, I had these footsteps that would come down the hallway, and the metal doorknob on the old Victorian house would rattle, and this lovely couple would come in, and I was so excited to see them. They would talk to me, they would smile, and they would tuck me in. I did reach a point, probably about 6 or 7, where I had finally addressed it, where I said to my mother and my stepfather, if I don't get to bed soon, like my friends aren't going to be able to come tuck me in, like something like that. There was something that triggered this, and, to their surprise, and who tucks you in? And I explained to them, that I had these 2 people that came in and tucked me in every night, and they were pretty freaked out by it. But also at that point in my life, they'd been freaked out by a lot of stuff that I said, so I don't think they paid it too much mind. Fast forward again, my mom and my stepdad get divorced, okay? My mom kifes these. She takes them. She puts them in a storage unit. She did not take them out again until I was moving out of state, getting married, yada, yada. And then she gave me the key and said, well, if you're getting your own house and you're getting married and stuff, I want you to have these. And I was just, utter shock. I could not believe she still had them. I had been estranged from them for so long. I missed them. So I just had this dejected look on my face the whole time, and I packed them up and I didn't ask too many questions. Lock in, we're not even at the crazy part yet. Let's fast forward a little bit more. I am with some friends, we're drinking, we're talking, and out comes this tale about how when I drink certain drinks, my alter ego named Gail comes out. And Gail is not someone I invented. She introduced herself to the gang. And the next morning when I would have anxiety and be like, oh my God, what did I say? What did I do? Everyone would be like, oh, that was just Gail. And this is a whole thing that was going on in 2 different friend groups that I had, not even to my knowledge. So the funny on-running joke for the last 10 years or so has been if I drink X, Y, and Z, but I'm going to tell you, Gail comes out. And Gail is this wealthy older woman who lives in Rhode Island, and she's been married a handful of times. Sometimes we kind of think she killed her husbands. It's kind of weird. She's big in jewelry. She wears all of her old wedding rings, Super Bowl rings. Like, there's just so much lore with like Gail introducing herself. Today, okay? We're here. We're present times. I reconnect with my estranged stepfather. I find out that at one point in my childhood, he broke out a photo of his parents. My stepfather grew up in the house that he lived in with me. He bought his old childhood home. We moved in there. He found a photo in the attic of his parents, and he took it downstairs, and my mother framed it. And we put it up on the TV, and I walked in one day and I went, "Oh my God," I go, "those are my friends who tucked me in at night. Where did you find that photo?" And he was like, "Those are my dead parents, Savannah. What are you talking about?" It was a whole thing. So we had discovered that day, I don't really remember that. We discovered that day that, his parents were the ghosts that were coming in and tucking me in at night. These pictures were heirlooms. They were heirlooms from his family. Okay, when I'm growing up and I'm being forced to reconcile with my biological father, whom I did not know, I felt like I had no connection with him, but I was always longing and pining for my stepfather. I felt like that was my dad, my family, my soul connection. I missed him so much. So we're reconnecting. I'm finding out that, his parents were the ghosts that used to tuck me in. These pictures that I've been toting around for the last 10 years are heirlooms of his. There's more. In that house that I grew up in, where all of these ghostly things were happening to me, when he was a child, there was a woman named Gail. I'm going to be honest, I spaced who she is. She was like a friend of the family or a cousin or an aunt or best friend's aunt or something like that. There was a drunken old woman who fell down the stairs in that house. The stairs were connected to my bedroom. My bedroom had 2 entryways. The stairs were connected to my bedroom. She fell down and died. Her name was Gail. Gail had a drinking problem, and she wore too much jewelry. There's more. My stepfather's mother, the ghost that would come in and tuck me in at night, I found out recently, a couple months ago, her and I share the same birthday because my stepfather texted me and said happy birthday on my birthday. We just reconciled within this last year. Like, we just started talking. I found it odd that he remembered my birthday, so I actually said to him, I was like, "You remembered my birthday after all this time?" And he said, "Yeah, you and my mother have the same birthday." He asked what I was doing for my birthday. I told him I was going to the Omni Hotel in the White Mountains, the White Mountain Resort, Rushmore. New Hampshire, Omni, big white, red roof. Everybody loves it. I love it there. I've always wanted to go there. My boyfriend, my lovely boyfriend, he made arrangements for us to go celebrate my birthday for a couple days there. And that was on my bucket list. I had always wanted to go there. Why did I want to go there? I used to have dreams that I was in the ballroom dancing. I had never been there. I had never heard stories or seen pictures, but I just always had this yearning to go. When I was married, I always asked my husband if he would take me there, and he'd say no. That's why I have a boyfriend now. So my boyfriend took me there. So I tell my stepdad, I go, "Yeah, for my birthday, we're going to the place." And he goes, "Oh, that's so funny. My parents used to go there once a year. They would go dancing in the ballroom." Well, anyway, I'm going to get cracking on this book here. I got to finish this thing. And tomorrow, that stepdad and I, that old guy, we're going to go shoot some golf balls and have a good time. Yeah, tomorrow we're going to hang out. So anyway.
Here's another spooky story, and this one takes us to a funeral home. The story starts off with a family of 4. There's a mom, a dad, and their 2 sons, and this family owns a funeral home. Now, at times, the sons during the week will come in and they'll assist the parents at this funeral home. There's a younger boy who's about 15 or 16 years old, and then this youngest son. Now, on this particular evening, the 2 parents and the youngest son have an outing to go to. This leaves the oldest son at the funeral parlor for the night while he waits for his parents to get back. Now, before the parents leave for the evening, the dad gets a call from a woman whose husband is set to be buried at the funeral home, I think the day after. So the dad is talking to the woman on the phone, and this woman is begging him to postpone the funeral. And the dad's like, "I definitely cannot do that. We have a schedule. We have other people who are wishing to be interred, and this, it's likely not going to happen. Not to say we won't try. Now, the reason the woman gives for wanting the dad to postpone the funeral in the first place is because her husband, who had passed away, was a war veteran. This war veteran thought it was super important to be buried with their medals, and the wife couldn't find them. She really wanted him to have them, and part of her husband's last will and testament was to be buried with these medals, and she wanted to honor his last request by finding the medals and making sure that he had them when he was interred. Now, again, she could not find these medals for the life of her. She had been searching for a couple of days at this point. So the dad, although understanding, does tell the lady that the likelihood of them being able to postpone the funeral is very unlikely. Now, it's also time for them to get ready to go, and time's running out for them to leave, so he rushes the lady off the phone, says that if she finds the medals in between tonight and the funeral the next day, then she can definitely bring them in. He hangs up the phone, grabs the keys, and he tells his oldest son, who's going to be there by himself tonight, to make sure he locks up for the night because the funeral parlor is closed at this point. They're not going to be receiving any visitors, and he just wants to make sure his son is safe and the place is secured. Now, despite this being a family business, the oldest son hates being left at the funeral parlor by himself, but obviously he can manage because he's older. Now, he does his rounds and he locks the doors, and he's sitting on the couch watching TV when all of a sudden there's a knock on the door. So the son turns the volume down on the TV because he wants to make sure he heard what he heard. And again, there was another knock. So the son is a little bit freaked out at this point, but he goes and he opens the door, and there's a man standing there. Now, this man is holding a brown paper bag, and he tells the son that he needs to see Reginald Hannon. Now, Reginald Hannon is the name of the deceased guy who is due to be buried tomorrow. The guy states that he's a friend of Reginald Hannon, and he found his medals at his house, presumably under safekeeping, so later on he could have them. So upon hearing this, the boy surveys the man and is like, okay. Now, as he's escorting him down to see the body to make sure that the man doesn't mess with anything, he starts to get really creeped out by the man's vibes. And because he's feeling insecure at this point, he makes the man sign the guest book. So once the man signs the guest book, the boy leads him into the church where the funeral is going to be held and the body station. And he decides that he's going to give the man a little bit of space and stand back out in the parlor where the guest book is. Now, the boy stands out there for about 10 minutes and he's like, what is going on? Where is this man at? So he goes back inside of the church and he notices that nobody's there. And so he starts searching the pews and he can't find anything, but he did find the brown paper bag laying on a pew. He picks it up, the bag's empty, and of course at this point he's really creeped out. So he's still trying to find this man that he led in to see this body, and this man is not there. So he's still looking around the church, he's searching under the pews, and all of a sudden he gets the inclination to walk up to the casket. Now he's thinking that the man might be hiding somewhere around it. So he looks around the casket, he lifts up the skirt, there's nobody there. And this is when he gets the bright idea to look in the casket himself. Now, this is when he gets the shock of his life because the man who was laying in the casket does have his medals on. The problem is the man who bought the medals in is the man laying in the casket. Now the boy is freaked the hell out. He hijacks it out of that church and he knocks over the visitor book. Now, because he can't leave it like that, he goes back over to pick it up. And that's when he gets the second shock of the evening because as he's putting the guest book back on the podium, he sees the name that's been written down. And the name in the guest book reads Reginald Hannon, the man who's due to be buried the next day. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this story. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you guys in my next video.
Do you guys want a scary story from when I used to work at a pool and I was there really late at night? It's been a little minute, but I randomly remembered this when I was dyeing my hair last night, actually. So, yeah, I used to work at a pool, and we would host private parties. And the people at the parties would have to be out by like 10 p.m. Or maybe it was 10:30. It might have been 10:30. Regardless, we had a party one night and they were taking their sweet ass time leaving, which, like, whatever. I didn't have anywhere to be. I didn't really care. But it's getting to like 10:45, 11, and finally like the last of them are going out. So I'm like, okay, thank God. I see like the last one leave, and I put the padlock on the gate, but I don't think that I fully locked it. So then I'm across the pool, way away from where people leave or where people would really be. I'm in like the baby pool area, and there's like a little like closet you have to go into to turn all like the pumps off and everything. And I'm in there and it's pitch black. I didn't turn the light on because
whatever. I'm closing up. I'm not really like thinking about it. And I hear, hey. And so like I turn around thinking somebody came back in, they forgot something, whatever. And it didn't sound scary, just like, hey. And it was a girl. And so I turn around and I'm like, yeah. Don't hear anything. So I open up the door further. It was just like cracked a little bit. So like a tiny, tiny bit of light was coming in. So I open up the door and I'm looking at the baby pool. I like look behind the door and I'm like, hello? Nothing. So then I'm like, okay, they must have been leaving and said something that like said hey to their friend, whatever. You know, I continue. Why am I zooming in on myself? I continue closing up the baby pool. I lock that up. I walk down underneath the pool, which is a very kind of scary place to be at night by yourself. And I'd like pretty much let everybody else go home at this point. There might have been still like a few people in the parking lot, but it was never really something that scared me. So I just didn't really think about it. So I'm down underneath the pool in like the main filter room and I'm turning things off there. And again, I have the door open about this much. It's dark out, so there's almost no light. I'm using like my phone flashlight at this point. Turn things off and I hear again, hey. Again, I open up the door, I'm looking around and I'm like, yeah. Nothing. So I'm like, it's getting a little weird. So I kind of scurry back up the stairs. I'm like, okay, this is getting a little peculiar. I go in to like check the bathrooms, make sure nobody forgot anything. Again, I don't turn the lights on. The main reason I would do all of this stuff in the dark is because I'm terrified of bats. And I feel like if you have the lights on in the dark, it'll attract bugs and then it'll attract bats to those bugs. So I would typically do like all of this shit in the dark. So I'm in the bathroom. I'm in the girls' bathroom. And you know, doing whatever in there. I'm putting toilet paper back in, whatever. And I hear, psst. Like, what the hell is going on? At this point, I'm kind of thinking, like, somebody's got to be messing with me. Like, what? This is just so weird. I go back into the main office, which is, like, right in the middle of the bathroom. So it's, like, girls' bathroom, office, boys' bathroom, and it all shares, like, the same ceiling, all of that. And then now this time from the boys' bathroom, I hear, psst, but it's the same voice. So I'm like, okay. I'm, like, texting my boyfriend at the time, like, could you like maybe come up around here? Like, this is kind of weird. I peek out into the parking lot. I see like all the cars are gone. So then like now at this point, I know that this can't be a person that's just from the party that's left here. And it's probably not somebody just messing with me because I don't see anybody else around at this point. So I go back into I go back into the girls' bathroom and I was washing my hands. Obviously I'm touching things in a bathroom, creeped out. Again, lights are not on. Washing my hands, there's a mirror right in front of me. I make the mistake of glancing up in that mirror and I see like a flash of light, like it almost looked like a flashlight went across the mirror. So like, okay, I look down again to turn off the sink so that the water stops running, look up again, and I swear on everything, and I know I'm going to get a lot of comments, this didn't happen, by the way, hope that helps. But anyway, you can believe me or not, I really don't care. Quick, like out of the very corner top of the mirror, I see like a flash of what appeared to be a like ghostly white face and dark hair go by. It was so funny too because when I was telling some of my coworkers about this story, the one when I got to that part said, "Are you sure you didn't just see yourself?" Like, no, it wasn't me because it was way up above my head. And I just bolted out of there, locked the door, ran into the office, got my stuff, flew out of the gate, locked the gate, flew into my car. And if you, there's like people that I worked with that probably remember this story that's going to see this. I feel like at that point, things just, like, this was like years after I lived in that haunted house. Obviously, if you were here for all those stories, you'd remember that. So like things just didn't really quite probably like startle me or scare me as much as it might have to somebody that like had never had any experiences with anything, but I was definitely shook. I drove home in silence, drove home like looking over my shoulder, drove home with my car lights on, like I turned on my overhead lights in my car, and I got home, like took a shower, went right to bed. I'm like, damn, that was weird. And nothing ever happened there again, at least not to me. I can't remember if anything ever happened to anybody else, but I would hear people talk about like hearing weird things in there and this and that, but like it's a pool, so you know you kind of hear a lot of weird noises. But I swear, clear as day, I heard the hey, the psst, saw the flash of light, saw the face. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just like somebody that's haunted. I really do. I think I'm just like gonna be haunted by things the rest of my life.
One thing I don't see realtors talk about is what happens when they encounter a haunted house. And when I was a new realtor, there was this house that was haunted that I had to try to sell, and it was just a hot mess. Let me tell you. So like I said, I'm brand new to the industry, broad-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I started out in Albany, Georgia. This is where the story actually takes place. And before you actually get to Albany, Georgia, there's this long stretch of roads, and it's literally nothing. If you know, you know. So at this point, I was getting assignments from my broker directly because I was brand new. I didn't really have any clientele, nothing like that. So my broker tells me I need to start doing BPOs, and I do a BPO on this house that's literally on an outskirt, middle of nowhere in Albany, Georgia. So I'll never forget my first time I actually took a friend because, I mean, I was a young girl. I think I was about 20 years old when I first started, and I didn't really want to go to these houses by myself. So I had my friend with me. And so we driving down the street, and like I said, it was on this long stretch of road, and we turned right off of that road, and it's another long road, and we're going for a little bit, and all of a sudden the road turns into a dirt road, and I'm looking at the GPS, and the GPS is looking at me, and I'm looking at my friend, and my friend is looking at me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, we in the middle of nowhere. Mind you, you look to the left and the right, you seeing trees and cornfields middle of nowhere. So we pull up to the house. Y'all, first of all, this was a beaten down shack in the middle of the woods. And right across from the house was this large open field. Mind you, this house was sitting on acres. I think it was about maybe 4 or 5 acres that this house was sitting on. And so if you know anything about BPOs, you got to take pictures. So I get the key, I'm unlocking the door, and I obviously don't want to go in by myself because I'm scared. Like, everything is overgrown. The grass is overgrown. The house is basically falling apart, and I was told that they were doing repairs on it. So we walk up in this house, right? And first of all, I'm getting creeped out. Like, the house is creepy. Some walls is painted. Like, you could tell somebody just kind of packed up and moved, but the house is kind of raggedy. It got that old house smell. The kitchen is completely gutted. Like, you walk into the living room, the child's room is on your left, and to the right, I want to say it was the master bedroom. So this is a really small house. Mind you, in the back of that house, there's mold. So, like, it's a lot of problems with this house. So I'm telling my friend, I'm like, hurry up, let's just take the pictures and let's go. Like, I got to get up out of here. So I'm taking my pictures. They taking their pictures. All of a sudden, they go into the master bedroom. I'm in the kitchen. And all I hear is, Edie, come here. Edie, come here. Y'all, why I go into the room, into the closet, and written on the wall, I literally took a picture of this years ago, and I lost the freaking picture. I wish I had the picture. But it says something like, please stay away. This house is haunted. It will break up your family. I can't even lie. I'm like, what is going on? Mind you, I'm already getting a bad feeling. I'm kind of nervous, but I'm like, let's just take our pictures and go. So that's exactly what we do. Fast forward, like I said, I had to keep going back to the house. Now, I'm scared, but at one point, my friend couldn't go with me. So what do? I take my dog. I ain't got nobody else, so I take my dog. We get in the car, and I'm riding. Y'all, I can't even make this up. As soon as we turn down the dirt road, my dog takes his head, puts it back in the window, and starts to get low. I said, why you getting low? What you scared for? So boom, we pull up to the house. I get out the car, and I open his car door. He not trying to get out. Sir, you are the backup. Get out the car. I'm not gonna lie. I pried him out of that car. I did, because I was scared. So I go to the front door, and I unlock it. I look behind me. My dog is literally looking. I'm trying to explain this, but my dog was basically in front of the front door, not quite on the front porch, looking, crouched down low, looking at the house. I'm like, all right, his name was Ace. I was like, all right, AC Poo, come on. He was not budging. I said, come on, Ace, come on. At this point, I'm like, stop playing with me. Get in this house. Help me. Y'all, he wasn't going for it. He ran back to the car and was literally standing outside the car door looking at me like, ma'am. And that's how I know it's real, because dogs be knowing, animals be knowing. I'm like, all right, I ain't gonna subject him to this. So I put him back in the car, and I'm like, let me just hurry up and take my pictures. So I'm going through the house taking pictures, and I just, like, you know that feeling that, like, something bad is gonna happen, like, I want to say impending doom. That's just how I was feeling, and I just felt like I was being watched, and I was honestly so scared. I'm not gonna lie to you. And the worst part is, there was no service. So I was trying to call my friend, I was trying to call my mom, I was trying to call everybody in the world. Call was failing. Thankfully, I made it out that time without a scratch. But let me tell y'all the craziest thing about this house. It never sold. Like, I noticed I would keep taking pictures, and nothing was getting fixed. Like, the men that was supposed to be fixing the house wasn't making any progress. Every single time I would take a buyer to the house, they would never get it. I know some of them saw the message on the wall and was probably like, oh, hecky no. But, like, none of them. And even I remember one client actually did put an offer on the house. The deal didn't go through. To this day, I looked at the tax record. That house never sold.
Imagine this. You're getting home, it's late, you see your husband with his back turned in the kitchen getting himself something to eat. And you're telling him, listen, honey, I don't have time to talk right now. I really am tired. I need to go upstairs. I need to go to sleep. Say a word to you, so you keep walking up the stairs. You get into the room, you take your clothes off, you hop into the shower, you take a shower. You get your PJs on and you lay down, and he's laying on the bed with his back towards you again. No questions asked, you turn off the light and you fall asleep. Same night, around 3 o'clock in the morning, you get a call. Like, what? Who's calling me at 3 o'clock in the morning? So, of course, you're sitting there snuggle up with your husband. He's hugging you, and you're looking at your phone, and your phone says it's your husband calling. I say Jessica went cold. She went cold, ice cold. Do not draw attention to her husband laying down next to her. She gently removes his hands off of her. Now that's when she realized she wasn't the only person who was ice cold. That her husband, who was laying down next to her, tightened up his grip around her waist and said, "Death is coming." She jumped off that bed so quick and answered that phone, turned on the light and looked, and he was not in the bed any longer. When she answered the phone, it was the hospital calling, and they were letting her know that her husband got into a serious accident hours before, and he's been in a coma ever since. Them at what time did he get to the hospital, and they told her he got to the hospital around 8 o'clock. And when she recalled him in the kitchen, she had walked in also 8 o'clock. Started putting her clothes on, and when she got to the hospital, she asked them what had happened to her husband. They were telling her that they didn't really know, that she was more than welcome to see her husband, and once she walked into the room, there was a nurse changing his IV. Arrived into the room, she introduced herself as the wife to the patient. Proceeded to show her where all the things that he had on in the closet. And when Jessica looked at the clothes that were in the closet, she realized that the same clothes that she saw him in the house with earlier that night was the same clothes that were in the closet. She realized that the spirit or the person or whoever she saw in the house that night was her husband. With time, her husband did recover. However, she never recovered from that night. I think that was, do you think it was the husband just warning her about death at the door, or was that something else?
I think I once narrowly avoided being taken by an extremely dangerous and demented individual via a Facebook marketplace meetup. So story time, be careful and be smarter than me. Back in like right after COVID started to happen, I was hurting for money. So I started buying these like wholesale boxes and trying to like resell stuff to see if I can make some money off of it. And I get a couple of the boxes. I'm flipping things. I'm selling it. It's fun. It's whatever. I'm like, no big deal. Well, I end up getting one, and you never really knew what was going to be in them. So it's kind of like a surprise. And I get one, and it's mostly like young girls and women's swimsuits, undergarments, socks, things like that. It's primarily that. So what I do is I post it on Facebook, and I post it as like, you can buy the whole box if that works for you, but then I posted everything individually as well. Within 5 minutes, I get a message from what appears to be like a 56-year-old woman. And she was like, "Hey, this would be perfect for myself and my granddaughter. I would love to just buy the whole box." And I was like, "Awesome. Yeah, works for me. Here's a couple places we could meet, or if you want to pick it up from my porch, whatever." And we're going back and forth on some places. I'm realizing, okay, they must live like really close. And we plan to meet the next day. So I'm like, okay, cool. This works. Next day rolls around, and I get a Facebook message from a man, and it said, "Hey, I need an extra 30 minutes today. Can we meet a little bit later?" And I was like, who the hell are you? Because I was just selling this to an older woman who seemed very kind and nice. Like, who? So I was like, "I'm sorry, I am already selling this. Like, did I talk to you about this before or something?" He's like, "Oh, my bad. I have a couple different accounts. One of my accounts got banned, and I used like a couple different of them." And I was like, "Okay, so like, who are you though? Like, are you the, why is this different?" It was like a man's profile picture, a man's name, but the man profile picture didn't end up being even the man that I saw. Okay, we'll get there. Weird. So against my better judgment, I'm still like, you know what, whatever. I want the money, blah, 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 blah. Well, then he starts, "Okay, can you meet here? Can you meet?" The plan starts changing. I'm like, bro, no, like, no, let's go. I said, "I can give you the extra 30 minutes. Can we go with the original meeting spot?" Here's where I become completely dumb. He says, "Hey, if you could just bring it to my house, I will give you an extra $100. All I hear is extra $100. I'm like, say less. I will be there. Stupid on my part. It's wintertime, so it's getting dark earlier. He says, "Can you meet at like 5:30? It's gonna be dark." I say, whatever. I said, "I'll drive out front of your house, and then you can just come out. I'll hand it to you. Bada bing, bada boom. That's what we're gonna do, right?" He's like, "Yeah, perfect." Gives me the address. I look it up. It's in the woods. I'm like, gonna assume there's a house back there. We're just gonna assume there's a house back there. And there was. That looked like nobody lived in it. So I show up, I barely have service on my phone, because it's in the middle of nowhere. It's like in the middle of the woods, and there's like a couple like shacks, like a trailer or two back there, whatever. I'm like, okay, a couple signs of life. This is a good sign. But I get there and I'm like, I message him, I think I'm here. He says, can you come in? Absolutely not. Don't need to hear anything extra about $100. I don't know. Nope. I am usually such a people pleaser, that I would have just said yes, but something in my gut was like, if you go in that house, you're not making it out of here alive. Also, don't ever do this. I didn't tell anybody where I was going because I knew they'd be like, do not drive to the woods and meet some random man off Facebook Marketplace. Yep, rightfully so. They should have said that. No, I didn't care. So I didn't tell anybody where I was. I barely have service. I don't know where I am. This man starts to walk out of this house. I try not to judge people off how they look. He was a serial killer. Like, this is a time where it was okay and it was all right to judge. He was the tallest man I've ever seen. I swear to God, he looked to be about 7 feet. Slender man as hell. Skinny, gaunt face, very tall, like, weirdly weird hair. Like, parts of his hair were, like, long, and then parts it was almost like his scalp was out. Parts were cut short. I'm like, what is going on? He's walking to my car like that. I'm like, I'm here, like, oh, I just, my life is flashing before my eyes. I'm like, what have I gotten myself into? Mind you, keep in mind, guys, it was a box of little girl and women's underwear and bikinis and socks. This man had no reason to need these things. I never even oh my God. I thought it was like a weird fetish thing. I thought he just wanted it because he just wanted it for himself, and it never hit me. What if he had people... Oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. Don't meet people off Facebook Marketplace. Don't do it. I got myself overwhelmed to the point I didn't even finish the story. I immediately texted somebody that I know that lives out that way, and I'm like, have you ever heard of this guy? Blah, blah, blah. It's been like 6 years since this happened, too. Long gone, if anything bad did happen. Or long already done. But they were like, I think I kind of know who that is. He's just weird. I've never heard of him actually doing anything, though. I'm like, okay, thank God. To finish this story, he came out and asked me again. He was like, can you follow me in to help me put this stuff away? And I was like, and again, I'm like a pathological people pleaser. I would typically say yes. Alarm bells, they were too loud. I was like, no, sir, I'm sorry. I'm like, I have to get to work. People are waiting on me. Like, people will know if I'm late to show up somewhere. I did not have to get to work. I didn't even have a job at the time. But just wanted to set the scene, like, yeah, somebody's waiting on me to show up somewhere, so don't even think about taking me. And he was like, okay. And he got the stuff out of my car, walked away. I got the money. But it was scary.
Story time of the absolute scariest, most mind-blowing thing that has happened to me working at a funeral home. So I was pretty new here. I was there for like maybe 4 or 5 weeks at the time, and my manager asked me to go ahead and set up our chapel for our decedent. So I went and did that. I set up the flowers, I put up a beautiful portrait of her, and then I wheeled her casket in. Once I finished all that, I asked my manager if he could go check if everything looked good, because again, I was fairly new. He walks in there, he tells me, oh, everything looks great, everything looks beautiful. Oh, look, she is so pretty. And I'm like, right? Isn't she gorgeous? And then he tells me, okay, let's just open up the casket now, so for everyone to come in. So I opened it up, and this man has been in the funeral industry for like 30 plus years. We lift up the lid. She doesn't have a face. I am not kidding. I have never ever felt anything so crazy in my life. It was like the scariest rush in my face. All the blood left from my face. And my manager, again, who's been there for 30 plus years, yells so high pitched that I went like sorda. I don't know what that word is in English. I went sorda. And literally, this woman's face was gone. So what you could see was hair, and then nothing here. It was just meat and bone, just open, flayed out everywhere. It turns out that this woman was in a car accident and she hit a pole face first. I have seen so many things after this and seen things that you would never imagine, and she sticks with me forever because I cannot believe that we almost opened up that casket for her family to see. And for a grown man that's been working there for 30 plus years to yell out like that, just know that has stuck with me forever.
I want to share a story with y'all that my great grandmother shared with me. Um, my grandma, when she got like 63 and she was kind of like older, she would sit down and she would tell me a lot of stuff, like about when she was younger, like what she would do and, how it was when she got married. And she said her husband was in love and they ended up getting married, but just like all marriages, they had a rough patch. So I can't remember what she said about how, her and her husband ended up getting into it. But anyway, my granddaddy ended up leaving. And when my granddaddy ended up leaving, I think she said he ended up going to either North Carolina or South Carolina. And he left her for another woman. And so my grandma was just like, basically for a little while, like she tried to play it cool. But some time went by and she was like, hey, this been going on for far too long now. This shit been going on too long now. Like, I'm about to go get my husband. How she found my granddaddy, I don't know. But I know she told me this. She found the lady house where my granddaddy was staying at, and she went and knocked on the door, and she told she told my granddaddy to come on. And she said my granddaddy did not hesitate. He went and got all his stuff, and he up and left, baby. So he up and left, and they end up coming back home. But then when they end up coming back home, she didn't say if it was right away, but strange things started happening. So the first thing that my grandma said that she started to notice, she was like, she went to get up one morning and get out of the bed. And then when she got out of the bed, she ended up falling to the floor. And she said when she got up, one of her legs was shorter than the other. And so she said she sat up on the bed, and checked her legs out because that kind of freaked her out. But then she started having excruciating stomach pain. So everything, I guess, was going all bad like at once. My grandma said when she got up, tried to get up again, her leg was so short that she was hopping, y'all. So she said she hopped to the bathroom, and she said she swore up and down. She told everybody this story, but nobody believed her. She said that she was on the toilet for so long, and finally, when she finally, came to and was able to use the bathroom, she pooped out a black snake. Now, I know old folks tell like some crazy stories or whatever the case may be, but I was like, are you freaking serious? She was like, yes. She was like, it was that serious. And I was like, Grandma, are you joking? She was like, no. She was like, every time I tell somebody this story, she was like, they do not believe me. So the next question is like, when you go through something like that or something like that happens to you, what's the next step? So of course, it's all type of black magic and roots. My grandma ended up going to a root doctor. So the lady that my granddaddy was dealing with, I guess she was upset because my granddaddy left her and went back to my grandma. So she took and put roots on my grandma. My grandma had to go to a root doctor to try to reverse everything. And then it was back to normal. So, hey, y'all can share what y'all want to share. Let me know, like, if because you never know when it comes to this black magic stuff. So it's like, have y'all ever experienced anything? Have y'all grandparents ever told y'all a crazy story that you ever heard, let me know.
So, I'm an only child for 14 years before my little brother pops up. Summertime comes around, June to September, I'm sent back home to Jamaica. I came to America when I was 6, about to be 7. But I went back to Jamaica every summer up until the age of 12. So I had elementary schooling in Jamaica. Okay, so in school in Jamaica, you have morning shift and evening shift. I had morning shift. My best friend had evening shift. So when I go to school, I get out of school, she's going to school, okay? And then I got to wait till she get out of school so we could play in the evening, ride our bikes all around the town. All right. I be by myself for those couple of hours. I went to the dried up gully across the street from my house, which is basically my best friend Marsha house, her grandmother's house. So we usually play over there, but we play down by the gully side. So I'm over in the dried area in the gully section playing. I see a little girl over there. I don't usually see a little girl. I don't see nobody over here usually. So I'm like, oh, what y'all do here? You know, so I never see her before. Who are you? You know, look, a girl, say her name. I don't remember her name. I promise you I don't. I had to be like 7. This is my first time going back to Jamaica. This is my first summer back in Jamaica after moving to America. So a lot of my memories, you got to bear with me, is blurry, but I remember them to the point where I could tell you the story. So I'm talking to the little girl. Don't really remember her name. We having a blast. I'm jumping on the tree, playing on the tree the same way I play with Marsha, because Marsha's my best friend, but Marsha's not there. Marsha's at school. I'm showing her the tricks I be playing and stuff on the trees, bouncing on the dried up tree trunks, all that. Showed her. And she's like, yeah, may I forgo now, May I forgo? And I'm like, oh, where I go? You know, go to school. In the evening, you have to be in a morning shift, because in a evening shift, because in a evening shift, you would have been at school, right? Right. She said, no, I'm going to go to school. She said, yo, you can't go up to the house on the top of the hill and ride your bike all the way down to like the yellowish, bluish house or whatever. I remember that. And she said, can you tell them, say, me no drown? I no drown, me drown. Okay, like, my cousin pushed me. So I'm like, what? She said, yeah, go up and drive. She said, me know say ride your bike, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm ride my bike. I forgot meet my friend. She said, yeah, ride your bike up to the hill and down the street to the yellowish and bluish house. Yeah, that one there. Just tell them, say, I'm a drone, me drone. Tell them. I said, okay. All right, because she leaving, I'm leaving, walking out the gully too, because she leaving, I'm leaving. I grab my bike, I ride my bike up to the house. It's guys outside, a guy and a girl or whatever. So I ride by, don't go in. I said, hey, a little girl just tell me, say, I know drone, she drone. Our cousin push her. And they say, what? What you just say? I said, the little girl say, I know drone, she drone, okay? Our cousin push her. But you understand, say, it never clicked in my head, like, and it never clicked. Because when I went back home, down the hill, to see what time it was, to see if Marsha's back, to even see if the little girl was back around there, the little girl was nowhere to be found. I never seen a little girl again. And the guys on the steps was like, what? Oh, make it say so. And I'm riding my bike away. Mind you, I shouldn't have been up there anyway. I rode my bike all around Jamaica, and my parents, my grandma, my uncles, they don't know how much of Jamaica I actually rode through. But yeah, that was my first ghost. Well, first ghost that I spoke to back.
I worked as a security guard in a mall. Worst, probably the worst, other than a museum and a cemetery. I have to say that. And maybe a morgue. Yeah, don't do that. But no, there was this girl, a little girl who died in our mall. She died at the coin, little wishing well thing that you put coins in. I think she drowned. So one night I'm working security, right? I got so many stories. One night I'm working security and we were closing up and we hear screams coming from where the bathroom area is at, right before you get to like the security area. And we heard a little girl screaming and there was nobody there. There was another night, which was really creepy. when I was driving around the perimeter, whatever, and I was in the car doing the top level and bottom level, driving around. There were there was one on foot security guard on the inside, and then there was another one in the little hub area. So while I'm driving, we're closing down. The mall's getting closed. We clear everybody out of the mall, whatever. And I hear the vet security guard. He was like, "Yeah, there's somebody, you know." And the young boy was in the hub. The vet security guard was on foot. So the young guy that was in the hub, he was like, "I'm looking at security cameras. There's still somebody at the food court in front of the Whipped Creamery, which was like an ice cream shop." And so the one on foot was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go to the food court, tell him he got to go." Okay. And he was like, "What is he wearing?" He was like, a white t-shirt and some blue jeans and a fitted cap. So he goes to walk to the food court, and I can hear everything on my walkie. So he gets to the food court, right? And he gets on a walkie, and he was like, "Where is the person that we're trying to tell to leave? Because I don't see nobody up here." And the boy that's in the hub, he's like, he's right there. He's standing right there with the cap on, right in front of the ice cream restaurant, right in front of the ice cream little shop. So the security guard, right, who was sitting up there, walks into view. This is what I saw after they replayed it, right? Because the boy was like, "Y'all not finna sit up here thinking I'm crazy." The security guard walks into view, puts his hands up on camera like, "Where? I don't see anybody." But while he's doing this, the man has his back to the camera because he's standing in front of like the damn cashier. I mean, the cash register, like he's about to order food. And so basically they were standing side by side. Like they were standing side by side. The security guard was in the camera with his arms up, shrugging like, "What are you talking about?" While the man was next to him, just standing there, just literally standing there. When that boy saw that, he said, "Well, just come back up here. I got to show you something." He was like, "Okay." He said, "Just come back up here. I got to show you something." I'm hearing this on the walk. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So when I did my stuff, I had like 30 minutes left on shift, got out the vehicle, parked it, did my little inspection, walked in, and they were like, "Let me show you something. Let's show you something. I got to show you something." That's what the boy said. And he was like kind of visibly spooked. And when we watched the video back, I said, "Oh, hell no. Hell no." There was nobody there. On camera, there was somebody there, but physically, there was nobody there. But I got so many stories. So if you ever just want to, like, if you just love paranormal activity, work as a night security guard for any warehouse. I won't even say warehouse, but like a mall or a museum or something like that.
And this is why I don't care what's out there. I'm not pulling over after dark. What's up, creepy crew, and welcome back to Paranormal Wednesday. So there's this guy. Let's call him Ray. So Ray's been driving trucks for over 20 years. He said he's definitely had his fair share of seeing like weird stuff or crazy stuff, but nothing prepared him for what he saw the night he was driving on Route 47. So he said it was after midnight. The roads were empty. He said the type of empty where like his headlights looked like a spotlight in the middle of nowhere. He was in between towns and he had his windows cracked so he could get some fresh air. So he's driving down Route 47 when he sees two kids. Immediately no, because what are they doing out here at this time of night? Demons. I don't know. That would be my first thought. He said these two kids were maybe 10 or 12 years old, and they were just standing in the middle of the road, like perfectly still. So he slows down and he stops the truck a few feet in front of them, and he notices their eyes. He said their eyes are completely black, like not just dark, like no whites, completely black. If like, excuse me, run them over. I don't know what we're waiting for. Run them over. He said they were extremely pale, like almost gray looking. He said their clothes were really thin and tattered and looked like they had been washed like hundreds of times. But what really got him was their eyes. He said he doesn't know why, but he felt compelled to help them. I don't know why either. I would feel compelled to call the FBI before they start saying I'm cooey. So then they speak. "Could you give us a ride, please?" I don't think that's what they sounded like. Actually, in fact, he said that their voices were very monotone and flat, so I know that's not what they sounded like. But in my head, that's what they sounded like for a second. He said they asked it like too politely, like it was rehearsed. And at that moment, his stomach dropped. He said the hair on the back of his arms and his neck stood up, and every instinct in his body was telling him to say no. So Ray is trying to stay calm, and he's like, "I'm sorry, but fuck no." So he says they don't argue. They just stare. They don't move. They don't blink. They just stare. Immediately poking one of them in the eye, preferably the older one. Ray said his chest tightened. So he turns around to grab a flashlight out of his truck, thinking maybe he can make some sense of all of this if he can see better. What more do you need to see? Tell them to have a good night, pull off, and get CPS on the phone. That's as much as I'm doing. So he grabs the flashlight, and when he turns back, they're gone. No footprints, nothing disturbed, just gone. When Ray got home, he checked the dash cam footage because he wanted to see the two kids again just to prove to himself he wasn't losing it. That didn't help. When he looked over the footage, the road was as it has always been. Empty. Nothing. However, when he listened to the audio, it was clear as day. Could you give us a ride, please? Okay, again, I probably know how they sounded, but still. Two little voices in the dead of night. Ray said he hasn't been able to sleep since. He said he doesn't know what or who he saw, but he will never forget those eyes. Y'all stay safe out there.
Okay, I hear you. I'm back with the story times. This one will be titled The Trip. I had to put my necklace on. If you know, you know. So the year is 2019, and if you know me, you would know that I am a very open-minded individual, and I get myself into some very interesting situations. So this day in particular, I'm scrolling YouTube and I come across a video on ayahuasca. And if you are not familiar with what ayahuasca is, it is a psychedelic brew. So as I'm listening to this man describe his experience with Aya, I told myself, yeah, I need to experience that. I got to do it. And may I remind you guys, I have never done a drug in my life, not even weed. And before I continue, I just want to say, do as I say and not as I do. Don't do the shit that I do, because you may not have the same luck that I do, okay? I did about 3 days worth of research, and the next thing you know, I was in contact with the group and I booked a flight out to Arizona. Now, before you go on this trip, you have to follow a very specific diet. It has to be very clean. You can't have any alcohol, nothing. You have to be pretty pure. So I did about a month's worth of that cleansing. And they also requested that we wear all white. So fast forward, I'm now in Arizona, I'm in my Uber, and I'm heading to the church. I get there and there are about 20, 25 other people that are also all dressed in white. Before we can walk into the church, they have a stand like this, and what I think is sage, right? Is that the thing? And they're, cleansing us top to bottom, left to right, all this good stuff. And in we go. I'm now in this large square-shaped room, and along the wall on the floor are these mats that also have about 1 or 2 layers of blankets, I guess for comfort. And each of these mats were accompanied with 1 bucket, which will come into play later. In the center of this room is a platform, and that is where the group's leader, I guess you can call, he hated when we called him a shaman. That's fine. His name was Clay. I can say his name now because unfortunately he did pass a couple of years ago, which is still really sad. But there's this platform in the middle of the room, and to the left side in the back is this beautiful, beautiful, large gong. And naturally, that is where I decided to make my home base for this night and the following night. And something I noticed about this room is that every single window had either a blanket or newspaper over it with tape. And later I would come to understand that that was to prevent the light from coming in because it could affect your experience, if you will. So it is now 9 p.m. and the leader, along with his tribe, are now making their way around the room, asking us all various questions. One of the questions was, have you ever done a drug before? My answer was no. Clay then looks at me and says, and you decided to do ayahuasca as your first experience? And I said, yeah. He chuckles and says, I like you. I then ask Clay, well, how long is this trip supposed to last? And he says, well, darling, the entire night. And mind you, I am the virgin in the room. Everyone else is quite experienced. I had no idea. He then goes on to explain to me that about 45 minutes after ingesting the tea, I will most likely vomit. And that's where the bucket comes into play. And I said, fuck. And he says, no. It's not like I drank too much hangover vomit. It's like a just clearing kind of vomit. It's not the same. So I said, okay, cool. I'm gonna trust it. The other questions were basic. They were like, oh, how far did you come from? How did you hear about us? He was quite pissed at my answer to that one. So I won't out the person who told me about it because she is still very active on social media, and she's also an actress, so not going to out her. All right, this video is already getting too long, so I'm just gonna fast forward into the juicy bits. So it is now time for us to individually go up and get our shots. It is now my turn. He hands me a glass with a little bit of like brown liquid in it, and he does this little ritual thing, and I throw that bitch back. And it is the nastiest thing I have ever put in my body. Tasted like fucking hell. But there's this bowl of like oranges, and I take like 2 or 3 of them, and I'm just like, so I crawl back to my spot. Got my pillow, my blanket. I just make myself comfortable. I grab the bucket and I wait. 45 minutes on the dot, I start to purge. That's what they call it, a purge. I purged about 2 or 3 times, and that is when it all began. I absolutely hate doing this, but please come back for part 2. I am uploading it right after this one. So sorry, this video is already 5 minutes long. Okay, bye. Welcome back to the trip. The fun has now started, and La Madre has come to take me. She takes me into one room this day, and she also has me do a little fun experiment at the end of my trip. When you're finally in it, you are completely detached from your physical body. All that's left are some of your senses, such as your eyes, or your ability to see, and your ability to think. That's it. So I'm now floating quite high in this room, and in the corner sits this little boy, about 7 or 8 years old. And he's got his knees to his chest, and he is sobbing. The door to the room is cracked open, so the light from the hallway is shining on him, so I can see that, you know what I mean? So as I'm watching this little boy cry, the madre is sort of narrating what's going on. She explains that his life has now become void of love, and that it will go on to shape who he is and who he will become. And then she tells me to have more compassion. And she says a few other things that make absolutely no sense to me, but I feel such a profound feeling of sadness and pity for the little boy. And then all of a sudden, I'm sucked back into my body. And now I'm leaning up against the wall, just sobbing myself. I'm left with this like overwhelming feeling of shame and guilt, but also this newfound understanding that I never had before. So as overwhelming as that situation was, I decided to take a little break. I went to the bathroom, made my way back to my seat, and leaned back against the wall and closed my eyes. And then I heard La Madre say, "I want you to open your eyes." So I followed, followed the instructions. I opened my eyes, and she says, "Okay, now I want you to close them. And I just want you to remember, this room is pitch black. My eyes are now closed, and I could see every last person in this room." And if you remember from the story The Godfather I told a few weeks ago, his brain was shooting off like different colors. It looked like a motherboard or like wires that were firing off. The room looked similar to that. Rather than it being like a physical body, it was wires. I don't know why it shows up like that for me, but it was energy in the shape of their body, but they were all different colors, and it looked like a big ass freaking rainbow in there. It was gorgeous. And so she has me open my eyes again. I open my eyes, I can't see a thing. All I can hear are the tribe leaders or tribe members walking past doing these things with their feathers. Oh, I have feathers around here somewhere. I don't know where they are, but they're moving the feathers around you. They're playing the drum. They've got the music going on. You've got some Indian stuff, in the background. The gong's going off, and I'm like, this is exciting, but like, holy shit, it's overwhelming. So she tells me, close your eyes. And I close my eyes again, and I could see them. And they're dancing, and I could see the colors going, and I could see the neurons or whatever it is firing off. So she goes on to say that she wanted me to see what we looked like in our true state, which is energy. It was beautiful, you guys. It was beautiful. So now we're gonna rewind and go back to the story of the little boy. A few weeks ago, I was tasked with taking my father to the airport, and he was making his way to Cape Verde, where we are from. So during this car ride, he begins telling me stories about his past. So I always knew that his mother passed, but I never knew the circumstances around her passing. I never knew how old my father was. I never knew any like real details other than the fact that she was no longer here. So my curiosity was piqued, and I began asking him questions about who she was as a person, as a mother, and from what he said, she was a delightful person, but his father, not so much. So I ended up finding out that his mother passed of a heart attack. She was 35 years old, which is the same age that I am now, and he had come home to find her gone on her bed. Dad came, did absolutely nothing. He actually left he and his siblings alone with her. And I don't know why I can't say that out loud. It sounds so fucked. And so I asked my dad, I said, well, how old were you when she died? He says, I was 8 years old. And you guys, that's when it hit me. It's almost as if in that moment I was right back to 2019, where La Madre is like, you gotta have more compassion for this little motherfucker, okay? You can't be a little bitch anymore, because that's not what she said, it's not how she said it, but damn, that was like pretty close. But that's when it freaking hit me. The little boy that I had seen in that room, crying in the corner, who was void of love because the person he had loved the most had died, was my father. And so I, as a then 28-year-old woman, was watching my father as an 8-year-old boy cry out for his mother. And that is, when I tell you that shit, fucking, that hit so hard, and it still does to this day. As you can see, I'm like fiddling with this little frog. I am nervous as hell telling the story. My mind is riddled with curiosities about what this reality is. I'm always in search of information. I am open to anything. And so when I'm presented with something new, I tend to jump on it. Whether it's a feeling or whether it's an actual opportunity, I tend to jump on it because I just want to learn, I just want to know. And I know that it will add to my life experience. Anyway, at the end of night 2, the sun is coming up and the shaman ends the ceremony by singing a song. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. That song really does hit different now.
All right, so you always hear people say don't do love spills because they always come back to collect their debt. So let me tell you about Zora and Elijah. Zora was beautiful. She had deep brown skin. She was gorgeous. She had long locks, but she also had a heart that had been broken many, many times. Her heart was broken many times by the same person, and it was this dude named Elijah. She was really, really, really in love with Elijah. She always told herself that she loved herself more than she loved Elijah, and that she would do anything in this world to be with him. Elijah had already made it clear that he wasn't ready for a relationship. He made it very clear from the beginning, but he would also play games. He would lead her on. He would leave before she can ask or try to get clarity on where they were. But Zora kept waiting. One day, Elijah went to Zora and told her he was talking to somebody else. And so that literally broke her heart. She was broken. She was shattered. All she could do was hit her grandmother's floor and cry. Cried out. She cried it to the point where she didn't have no more tears left. She remembered the box that was in the attic that her grandmother told her about. She climbed the attic, she found the box, and she opened it. Inside the box were photographs, dried flowers, a deep red liquid, candles, just everything that you need to do a love spell. Underneath it, she came across a note from her grandmother stating, "If you're reading this, you're probably heartbroken." Zora literally laughed through her tears, but then the next line made her stop. The letter stated that love could be called, but always remember it can't be forced. Any love that is forced will always come back and collect the debt. That night, Zora performed a ritual. She spoke on all the things that Elijah had told her. She spoke on their first kiss, their first hug, all the promises that he made her. Zora said, "I don't want to control him. I just want him to love me in the way that I love him." The flame on the candle turned blue, and then Zora heard a voice from behind her saying, "Are you sure this is what you want?" Zora turned around, but it was nobody there. She swallowed deeply and she said, "Yes." The voice whispered again and said, "Okay, you'll have him." The next morning, Elijah began to blow Zora's phone up. He was calling back to back to back to back to back. She like, "What's up, Elijah?" He was like, "I don't know what's wrong." He was like, "I can't stop thinking about you." For the first few months, Zora thought everything was okay. Elijah wanted to stay by her side. He never wanted to leave her. He was just really deeply in love with her as she wanted. He literally told her, "I can't imagine my life without you." It got to the point where Elijah stopped leaving Zora.
Then it became strange because he stopped working. He didn't want to go around his families and friends. All he wanted was Zora. When she tried to leave, he'll say, "Where you going?" She like, "Elijah, I'll be back." He like, "No, I want to be with you. Like, you got to stay with me." One day she tried to go to the grocery store. Elijah's heart filled with panic. He was like, "You told me you'll never leave me. You told me you'll always be with me." She was like, "I never told you that, Elijah." He said, "Yes, you did." That night when Zora went to bed, she woke up to Elijah standing at the foot of her bed. He wasn't blinking or breathing heavily. He was just standing there staring at her. And she like, "Elijah, what the hell is wrong with you? Why's you standing at the end of my bed watching me sleep?" He smiled and said, "I finally love you." So Zora sat up. She like, what the hell is he talking about? Then Zora looked past him. She looked at the picture that was on her dresser that she used for the ritual. It no longer had Elijah's face on it. It had her face on it. As she walked closer, a woman with a shadow stood behind her. She's like, "No one is supposed to be here." But then immediately she noticed that it was her grandmother. Her grandmother had passed 12 years ago, so it was no possible way that her grandmother could have been there. Her grandmother said, "I warned you." Zora turned around and Elijah was standing behind her. His eyes were completely black and he said, "You wanted this, love, remember?" She said, "I did." He said, "Remember, you never wanted me to leave." She said, "Yes." At this point, tears began to fill her eyes. He said, "Why are you trying to leave?" And then the bedroom door slammed shut. Zora began to run towards the door. She pulled on it, but she could not get out. Then Zora heard her grandmother's voice. The voice said, "Love can't be forced, Zora. Only obsession can." At this point, Elijah is crying real tears. He begged, he pleaded. He said, "Zora, help me, please, let me out." Zora reached for him, but before she could touch him and get to him, he said, "I don't want to love you anymore." The candles went out, and then Zora realized that the spell never made Elijah love her. It made him become obsessed with her. It made them become trapped to one another. Every time Zora tried to leave, he pulled her back. Every time Elijah tried to leave, she pulled him back. They were bound together by obsession. Years later, people still whisper about the abandoned house that Zora and Elijah lived in. Some say you could hear a woman crying upstairs, and then some say you could hear a man begging to let him out. And it's crazy because every February the 14th, a light turns on in the bedroom. And you could hear a voice saying, "Be careful what you ex love to become, because sometimes it loves you back way too hard."
Someone knocks at your door at 3:33 a.m. Absolutely do not answer it. When I was 17, my grandma gave me one rule before I moved into her old spooky farmhouse. And I knew something was strange and oddly off when she looked me in my eyes. And she said to me, "If you ever hear something or someone knocking at 3:30 in the morning, don't answer it. Pretend like you're asleep." Now, me being the person that I am, I laughed because I thought that she was joking. And for months upon months, nothing happened. So why would she feel the need to tell me that? I have no clue. And one night I woke up to the sound. And when I checked my phone, because I thought it was my grandma maybe knocking on my bedroom door, it was 3:33 in the morning. And also, I kind of just figured it was my brother messing with me because, you know, siblings, they always do stuff like that. But then strangely, I remembered that my brother was spending the night out of town, so it couldn't have been him. And so naturally, I laid there perfectly still, and a minute passed. And then out of nowhere, I heard a woman's voice outside of my bedroom, very soft, almost like a whisper. "Are you awake?" Every single hair stood up on my body. I pulled the blanket over my head and I did not move a freaking muscle. And then, peeking from underneath the sheet, I looked at the door as the doorknob slowly began to turn. It rattled for nearly a minute, give or take, but then all of a sudden stopped. I guess I must have fallen asleep because the next thing I remember is waking up to the sunlight coming out. Now, Grandma usually calls us down for breakfast, so naturally get up, put some clothes on. But to my surprise, when I opened my bedroom door, there was a couple of muddy footprints outside of it, as if whatever or whoever it was must have been outside. I brushed it off, but it always played in the back of my mind. So later on at dinner, I asked my grandma, and she didn't seem surprised, not in the slightest. But the look on her face was quite disturbed, and she took a deep sigh and said, "I finally found you." And I asked, "Well, what was it?" She looked at me and said, "Whatever you do, don't answer if it knocks again, because the second time, it comes inside." And if you want to hear a part two, make sure you give me a follow.
Imagine being 17, getting your first apartment for only $100, and not even being asked to pay the first or the last month's rent. What's up, cousins? So we're back with another story time. Just like any other time, let's not waste no time and let's get into it. Okay, so for this story, we're gonna call her Rose. So Rose was 17 years old and she was working, she was in school, she had 2 kids, so she's ready to move out of her mom's place and get her own apartment. So after applying for these apartments, literally the next day, one of the managers of those apartments called her and told her, bring me $100 deposit right now, you can move in. She didn't even ask for the first month's rent, the last month's rent, nothing. And then she's only 17, so she's not even thinking of it. All she can think of, I got $100, I'm about to go get this apartment. So Rose met with the manager. The manager gave her the keys. Rose gave her the $100. She had no furniture or nothing because she was so eager to get out of her mom's place. So Rose moved in, a couple days go by, everything is normal. So she ended up inviting one of her friends over because her friend is dating her brother at the time. So the friends stay over. Now the next morning when the friend walks into Rose's room, Rose says she looked a little off. And the friend told her that she had something in her apartment. So Rose like, what do you mean? So the friend's like, you have something in here like a ghost or something. And Rose like, nah, like you tripping. So the friend told Rose that she was in the kitchen and she was cooking breakfast. She was making some eggs. So she's finna season the eggs with some salt. As she picks up the salt, something pushes the salt out of her hand. So Rose like, nah, it was probably oil like on the salt, like on the container of the salt, and it just slipped out of your hand. Rose brushes it off. She paid no mind to it. So a couple days later, it's Rose, her brother, and her brother girlfriend at the house once again. They're in the living room, they're watching TV, and then something hits the back of the wall. So the couch that they're sitting on is in front of the wall that just got hit with something. And above them is a big picture frame. Now it's 3 pictures that make one big picture frame. And she said when whatever hit this wall, the picture frames on the end, so the one on the left side, the one on the right side, started swaying back and forth. There's nobody in the house with them and they all sitting on the couch. So Rose is trying to convince herself maybe just something fell in the other room and it caused this to happen. Some time go by, Rose started dating a guy. So the guy would come over, every now and then, spend a night with her. So this particular night, he spends the night with her. They end up falling asleep. When they fall asleep, they're back to back. So he's facing the door and Rose is facing this wall that has a long window. So as she wakes up, she said when she turns around, she see a silhouette standing there and it just scared her. But she didn't want to make too much movement because she didn't want this man that was standing there to realize that she notices him. So she ended up nudging her boyfriend, telling him to wake up, letting him know like, hey, something's in here with us. He told her to get up and turn on the light. Yeah, she looked at him like he was crazy. So he ended up getting up and turning on the light. They see nothing or no one in the room. And at this time, she had only been living in the spot for 2 months. So they get back in the bed, they end up falling asleep. Now when she wakes up, she notices that her closet door is open, but she knows every night before she goes to sleep, she closes this closet door. But every morning she wakes up, it's open. So she just comes to the conclusion like maybe the latch is loose and that's why it keeps opening up. So a couple days go by and Rose is woken up because her 3-year-old daughter is screaming. So she ran into the room, she see her daughter in the corner crying, saying, Mama, tell the blue lady to get out because she just bit me. So Rose is like, what? She turns on the lights. No one's there. So in her mind, she's saying that her daughter probably had a nightmare. So her daughter was like, she bit my finger. So Rose went and looked at her daughter's finger and it's red. So Rose ended up telling her daughter that it was just a bad dream. So fast forward, her son is only 2 years old and he couldn't really talk or enunciate words at this time. But she said it would be numerous occasions where she would catch him in the closet baby talking with something. So one day she said she had left her front door open because she had just burned something. So she's letting all this smoke and smell out of the house. Her son and daughter was sitting in the living room watching TV. She went to go use the bathroom. She came back. Her son was not there. So she's panicking at this point. She's looking everywhere. She can't find him. She's eventually about to call the cops until she hears baby talking coming from her daughter's room. Now she walks into the room. It's dark. There's no lights on. And she hears her son baby talking in the closet. She opened the closet door and she see her son sitting in the corner as if someone is cradling him and he's just happy and he's just baby talking. So at this point, Rose ended up calling her mom, telling her mom hey, there's some creepy stuff going on in this house. My daughter keeps saying that she see a blue lady. My son, he's baby talking in the closet with something. Can you come over? Rose's mom come over. She's ended up talking and playing with the kids. So Rose's mom asks her daughter hey baby, where do you see the blue lady at? So the little girl walked into her room and pointed at her little toddler bed and was right there, grandma, right there. So the grandmother walks up into the bed and pretend she's talking to the blue lady and telling her to get out of the room. So she ended up telling Rose's daughter she's gone, she's no longer here. The daughter turns around and says, no, grandma, she's still there. So her grandma is where? Show me. The little girl walked over to her little toddler bed, lifts it up and tell her She's right there. So Rose is just thinking maybe it's just her daughter's imagination. All right, y'all, this video is getting a little long and it's more to the story than this. So I'm going to be making a part 2. Until then, guys, enjoy this story. Like, comment, repost. If you guys have any spooky story that you want to share to me, make sure you DM it to me or send it to the email that's in my bio. Comment part 2. It's coming up. What's up, cousins? So I am back with parts 2 of Rose's story. So again, let's not waste no time and let's get into it. Okay, so we left off with Rose telling her mom and her grandmother where the blue lady was. So fast forward, Rose's boyfriend parents are throwing a party for New Year's, so they end up attending the party. So while they're at the party, it's like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Rose says she get this eerie feeling they need to leave like right now. So the boyfriend is like, okay, one more drink, and she's like, no, we need to go. So they go home. When they get home, her house was completely broken into and everything was just flipped over and ran through. And she said she knew that's why she had the feeling to leave this party. So she calls the cops. The cops come over. They're doing the report. And it's 2 of them that come over. So one of the cops looks at the other cop and says, remember that story that I told you? He's like, it happened here. So Rose like, hold on, what you mean what story? What happened here? So she just kept asking like, what happened? What went on? So he's like, if I tell you, you really wouldn't be able to sleep at night. And she's like, what? You gotta tell me because I'm living here. So the cop is just not telling her what happened. So they was gonna leave and Rose was like, hey, can I ask you a question? The cop was like, yeah. And she was like, does it have anything to do with a lady? So the cop's like, what lady? So Rose like, the blue lady. So the other partner ended up smacking the cop with the report papers and was like, yeah, I'm getting the fuck out of here. So the cop is like, okay, I'll tell you, but show me where your daughter sees this blue lady at. So one of the cops come in the house. She walks him to her daughter's room and tells him that she either sees the lady in the closet or under her bed. So she ends up walking over to the closet, opening the closet, and she said the cop looks so confused. So he's like, do you mind taking me to your room? So as they walk into her room, she's like, what's going on? So he goes to her closet, opens up her closet, and asks her, do you ever see anything in here? So she's like, no, but I see like ghost people, or every morning that I wake up, my closet is open. So the cop's like, it's interesting that you said that. So the cop is like, this closet opened up by itself. So Rose is like, yeah, but maybe the latch is just loose. The cop said, no, let me tell you what happened. The cop said that he hasn't been a police officer for too long, only a few years, but the reason why he would never forget this case because it was his first major case. So the cop said this happened less than a year ago. Mind you, by this time, Rose had already been in the apartment for 4 months. So the cop said he ended up getting a call to come to a crime scene. Now he said before you moved in here, you didn't even have this wall that was in the closet right here. It was just a big walk-in closet. The cop said before you moved in, it was a lady, her husband, and their 6 kids. Now, the woman ended up finding out that the husband was cheating on her, so she came home from work to confront him. So when the wife confronted her husband, he ended up flipping around on her and telling her that he's leaving her, he's taking the kids, he doesn't want to be with her anymore. So he took the kids and he left. So when the husband ended up leaving, the wife ended up going into the closet, and it was a metal rod in the closet, and she ended up hanging herself. The cop said when he got to the crime scene, she was a woman of color, but however, her body was completely blue. So when Rose told the cops that her daughter had saw a blue lady, that's why he got freaked out. So they're walking out and the cop's like, hey, ask your daughter where she's at right now. So Rose like, hey baby, where's the blue lady at? So her daughter said, mama, she not here no more. So Rose said, well, where did she go, baby? And her daughter said, her went in the fire already. Rose said her mouth just dropped. She said from that point on, she believed any and everything that her kids said that they see. Okay, so again, y'all, if you guys have any spooky stories that you want to send to me, make sure you DM it to me, or you can send it to the email that's in my bio. Until then, y'all, like, share, comment, repost, reshare. Enjoy this video. I will see y'all later.
I remember this one time traveling. It was during the pandemic, and I had just landed at an airport in Florida. I can't remember which one in Florida. I don't know if it was Orlando or Tampa, but it was one of them. Anyway, I remember walking through the airport. It was super quiet, like I was spinning in circles to see was anybody ever going to show up. Nobody was around. It was like eerie how quiet the airport had been. Now, mind you, I've been in a lot of airports at this time. This was 2020 or 2021, one of them. And we know what was going on during that time. But I have been in enough airports to know that was odd that such a large airport was that empty. Anyway, I kept walking and I turned and it's like a terminal opened up. I guess you could say a terminal. I don't know what it was. And there were maybe a dozen people there in a line. And we were going through TSA, and this was before I had TSA pre-check, so I had to take off my shoes and all that good old stuff, wait on my turn to put them on the belt. And I noticed that up ahead, because it was so quiet, literally no TSA agents were talking. It was the oddest thing. It was so silent. So I had enough time to like look around, scope my environment, scope the scene and all of that stuff. At the end of the TSA line, there was this TSA agent who had some kind of like big bottle. It was like a spray bottle. And I was squinting my eyes. I was looking real close and I could not tell what was in the spray bottle. I couldn't tell what was in it. I couldn't see a clear label. But he wasn't talking either. He was like gesturing to people to extend their arms. So they would hold out their arms and he would spray them, he would spray both of their arms. He would gesture for them to flip their arms over. They would do so, and he would spray the underside of both of their arms. Next person, same thing, gesture to spray, hold your arms out. They'll hold them out, spray. He'll gesture to flip. They will flip them, spray. Nobody said a word to this man about what was going on. So in my head, I'm thinking to myself, he ain't finna spray me with no stuff, and I don't know what he's spraying me with. During that time, there was a lot of weird stuff going on, and I don't be falling for the okie doke with nothing. And so the guy in front of me, he was an Asian guy, and I noticed that he was watching just like I was watching. And so I think we both noticed that so many people had been up to the line that it got to the point where they weren't having to be gestured anymore. They would just walk up and automatically hold their arms out, get sprayed, automatically flip their arms over to be sprayed. They would get their stuff and they would leave. I just thought all of this was so strange. And so the guy in front of me, I guess he had caught on too. So when he was done, he walks up. He was an older guy. He walks up. He held his arms out and he flipped them over to be sprayed. I didn't have the look of, how people be walking up with that look of, you better not play with me. I didn't do that. I just walked up with my mind set. He's going to explain to me what this is, or, we're going to have a tussle in this airport, because I get in an argument with TSA every time I go somewhere anyway. And so I walked up and I just looked at him. And for the first time he spoke, he literally said, "Thank you, have a nice day." I said, "Thank you, you do the same." I got my stuff and I walked off. I looked over my shoulder. The person behind me, a chump, held their arms out and they got sprayed. I went over to the older Asian gentleman, and we were sitting beside each other, putting on our shoes, and he said to me, "Boy, that was weird, huh?" And I said, "Yeah, that was really weird." And he said, "I don't know what they sprayed us with." I said, "I don't know what they sprayed you all with either, because I didn't get sprayed." He was like, "You didn't get sprayed?" I said, "No, I didn't get sprayed. Have a nice day and safe travels." Now, why am I telling you that story? It sounds like it was a dream, like how quiet the airport was and talking all that stuff. It sounds like a dream, but it was actually real life. And I'm telling you that story because it really made me think about how easy it is for people to be programmed. How easy it is for people to see a thing happen enough times to where now you're programmed in your mind that this is what it is, this is how it goes, so on and so forth. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's about to happen, but I want you to take that as a sign. You watching this story, if you got all the way this far, take it as a sign that you are not to let them program your mind. I don't care what you see everybody else doing. If it doesn't look right, if it doesn't feel right, if something isn't checking well with you, I don't care what. Make up in your mind, it won't happen to me. I'm not doing it. I'm not falling for it.
Snacks in hand, the vibe is set, and once I start, don't eat too much, cause you gotta stay fine. But come on, bestie, yeah. This lighting is kind of weird, but bear with me. But hey, bestie, I missed you. What are you doing? It's time to get a snack, right? Okay. You gotta get your okay, you got it, okay. If you want my story time in long form, go onto my YouTube, but get comfy and warm, okay? Okay. Don't watch anybody else's because they making money off of me. Anyway, on to the story time. Oh, for the sake of the story, let's call this guy Jamie. I need to get ready for this one because my mind is fucking blown, okay? So, Jamie is 19 years old right now, but when Jamie was 17 years old, which was 2 years ago, his body started to change, right? He hit puberty way before that. And the deep voice and the regular puberty stuff happened. However,
when Jamie turned 17, he started to have really bad acne. And I mean like really bad, to the point where like pus would be coming out his skin. He went to different doctors about it. They gave him different prescriptions. He tried everything and literally nothing worked. And it literally took a toll on his mental, to where Jamie becomes super fucking depressed, super fucking insecure. Like, he literally hated himself. And it's not, damn, I just bit my tongue. Anyway, but it's not like Jamie's an ugly guy. I went to his page. Oh, now, but we'll get to that. Based on, me going on his page, he didn't seem like he was ever an ugly guy. He's actually a very attractive young man, But because of all the acne on his face, it was hard for him to see it. And it was hard for other people to see it too, because he was getting bullied. Like, girls was making fun of him. And he had a girlfriend at the time. Like, when he turned 17, he ended up, like, cuffing this girl that went to this, like, school with him. Didn't even really stay with her for real. They were together for, like, 7 months, and then they broke up because she cheated. Yeah, anyway. So, fast forward. Jamie is now 19 years old. He's actually about to turn 20. But like I said before, the depression was really bad with Jamie. Like, it was bad to where, like, every day he was fighting to really stay on this earth. And he has amazing parents. He has an amazing family, very supportive, and they try so much to help him. But, it's hard. Especially with, like, the internet nowadays. You know how that goes. Wait, so Jamie, of course, follows me. Hi, Jamie. Funny thing is his mom was the one that followed me and put Jamie on to me. Mom is a very spiritual lady, and so his mom ended up purchasing my ebook. I hate how these be sounding like ads, but you guys said I can tell the reviews, so I'm gonna tell him. When his mom purchased my ebook, his mom told him, like, hey, I got Blizzy's ebook. You wanna try it? He was like, I don't need to try it. Like, I'm cool. His mom is like, you're not. You're not. Ultimately, they decided that they were gonna do it together. His mom ordered the stuff, the teas, and all of that. And I must say that this happened in January of this year. So, they did the fasting, of course. And Jamie's mom was hoping that some way, somehow, it would help him, with his depression. At this point, like, she didn't know what else to try, and she was really worried about her son, So, by fire, by force, she made him do it. They did it. So, when they did it, on Jamie's side, nothing happened. No weird dreams, nothing. However, on Mom's side, she ended up having a dream that the ex-girlfriend that he got with when he was 17 years old, she had a dream that they were both in a dark room, and she was outside of the room, but she was looking through a window. And Jamie was on his knees with his hands tied up, and the ex-girlfriend had a leash around his neck. And Jamie said when his mom woke up, she was absolutely fucking terrified. She knows they had just done the ebook, so this has to mean something. She asked Jamie, like, did you have any weird dreams? Jamie's like, no, I don't know. Like, everything's fine, everything's normal. He's like, okay, cool. So this message must be for me. But she didn't tell Jamie about the dream. She was just like asking him, because her discernment was telling her, do not tell him about the dream. So she started to ask him questions about that girl, like when they got together, what's the timeline, why they broke up, because Jamie never really told her what happened. So with asking Jamie the information, she put together that he got with her, right? A few months after he got with her was when the acne stuff started, which made Jamie very insecure, which affected the relationship, which then prompted that girl to cheat. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming Jamie for, that girl cheating. That bitch cheated because she wanted to cheat. But she's putting the timeline together, and she's like, does that, correlate in any way? And then it clicked. And she asked Jamie, did you have sex with that girl? Jamie's like, no, Ma. Mind you, she's a Caribbean mom. So, of course, Jamie's going to be like, no, Ma, I didn't have sex. And so she sat him down. She was like, hey, I understand you're at the age that you're going to have sex. I'm not going to be mad at you if you did. But if you want me to help you, you need to tell me. And so Jamie told him, yes, I did. I had sex with her. And she asked him, did the acne stuff started after you had sex with her? And so Jamie was like, it did. It did. So now Jamie's like, what the fuck? What could that even mean? And Mom, at this point, she already had put it together, So she was like, go on her page. I want to see her. And so he goes on her page, and her page is full of spirituality stuff. Not that that's bad. But it was more so like spells and this and that. And so he hadn't been on her page in a while, so he's like, what the fuck? Like, when I was with her, she wasn't doing none of this stuff. And mom is like, no, she probably was. She probably just wasn't open with it yet because she was younger. You guys are like 19, about to be 20 now. Jamie's like, Ma, you think this has something to do with my acne? And mommy, being Caribbean, is like, well, no doctor can help you, so what do you think? I don't think a lot of people know that a lot of the stuff that happens to you in the physical world is sometimes happening because in the spiritual world, something is dirty. I don't know, like, if you got that. So mom is like, since we already did the fast, let me do the spiritual bath. Jamie's like, okay, anything that is gonna work and get rid of these things on my face, yes, ma, do the spiritual bath. Do what you gotta do. So mom gave him the spiritual bath. She got the stuff and she prayed over him the entire time. You know, she was giving him the spiritual bath. Well, boom, that happens. Mind you, this happened in January. We are now in May. Jamie's skin has completely cleared up. And I mean completely. He sent me before and after pictures, but I'm not going to share them on here. But he's still not comfortable with like the before, you know? I got to respect it. And I tell you that shit fucking cleared up. This is the second person so far, second review that has said the ebook cleared their skin. That the first one is sometime last year. It's on my page somewhere. But here's the gag. They went back on that girl's page. She looks fucking terrible. Terrible. It looked like she been smoking 3 blunts, 3 miles, and crack in one day every day. She don't got no acne or nothing like that, but you could tell something happened. And so they put it together that that girl did that to him. He's very heartbroken about it because he really did love that girl. Till this day, he was like hoping that maybe in the future they like got back together. Maybe they were just too young, wrong time. You know how younger kids be thinking. We was all there at once. He never actually completely got over her, you know? So now finding out that she did that to him, he wants to confront her really bad, but his mom is like, no, do not go speak to that girl. He said he's really trying not to, but he's like very hurt by it because this boy was ready to take himself out because of this, you know? So Jamie and Jamie's mom told me to tell y'all that the book is the real fucking deal. That was like what he did not expect the book to do at all. He expected the book to help with the depression, but not his skin. Please, if there's any other similar stories, I want to know. Every day is some new shit with this ebook, and I'm like, I'm nervous about it. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I get paranoid every time I'm reading a review. Yeah, that's the story, y'all. Don't forget to let me know what you was eating in the comments, and don't forget to go to my YouTube. Oh yeah, I'm dropping a song tonight, but y'all don't be interested in that, so I don't even promote my songs on here no more. I kind of do, but anyway, y'all get it. I love you. Bye.
Good morning, you guys. So I've been seeing a lot of people do story times on like the spooky things that have happened to them, and this is not my typical content, but I do have a few stories that I want to share. So I'm going to tell you a series of stories in this video. And I'm going to apologize now. I am a wonderful storyteller in person, but online and to a camera, I'm pretty sure I suck ass. It's just that this is very unnatural, so bear with me if I stumble over my words and whatever. So the first story happened in 2003. I was about 13 years old. My little sister was 12. She and I were next door helping our neighbor pick weeds out of the ground. So Providence is all concrete, but we were helping him pick like the weeds from in between the cracks, if you will. They were elderly people. He was very specific about how he wanted his stuff, so we helped him sometimes. So the house that he lived in was a 3-family home. He lived on the first, his brother lived on the second, and there was a woman and her husband named Jean. She was named Jean. The husband, I don't remember his name. They lived on the third. And I think it's worth mentioning that we had a really good relationship with everyone that lived in that home, so we became very familiar with them and their routines. And Jean would always be at her window hanging clothes on this like clothesline that attached from her window to like this pole in the backyard. And whenever I'd see her or hear her out there, I would run out and just start chit-chatting with her. So this day I'm back there picking the weeds out of the ground, and all of a sudden I look up. And I see what I think is Jean, and she is standing there. I will mention that the size of the window was about half the size of a regular window. And so I look up, I see what I think is Jean. She's standing there, and she's just looking down at me. And I look up at her, and I go, she doesn't wave back. I'm like, I don't like that. hi. Nothing. And so I called my sister over and I said, I see Jean up at the window, but she's not saying anything to me. She's not even waving at me. And my sister goes, hi, Jean. And Jean doesn't respond. And then all of a sudden, she starts moving back and disappearing. Now I think back on that day, and I vividly remember how sunken in her eyes looked. They were dark. I couldn't see anything. She did wear glasses, but there may have been glasses, I don't remember, but I remember the hollows of her eyes. They were dark. It was very dark in the house, so all I could see was a silhouette. But she had on this white gown. And the funny thing about that moment is that I could see her entire body. I could see her entire body. And remember, I said that window was about half the size of a regular window. And so it's almost as if time or something in the Matrix glitched or warped. I always called it warping, but it's almost as if something warped and I was able to see or visualize her entire body, because I saw from the top of her head down to where her feet should have been, but I didn't see feet. I saw a gown. Like I said, she was wearing a white gown. So my sister and I, feeling very perturbed, we run inside my mom's house and we're like, Mom, we see Jean at the window and she's just not saying hi to us. She won't say hi to us. And I don't know why we decided to be little fucking tattletales like that. But I guess we were really just shaken up, and that's really all we could formulate was just Jean isn't answering us. And it's almost as if my mom knew. But she looks at us and her face just goes fucking white. And she says, go to your room. And we're like, okay, so we run. We knew something was off, you guys. We knew something was off. And so we could hear her and my dad talking in the kitchen. And then about 30 minutes later, she calls us in. She sits us down in front of her. But she's being very just like gentle. And she's holding us and she says, I don't think that was Jean. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? She says, you know what? I actually can't remember anything after that point. I think I was so shooken up that I literally cannot remember, but I'm going to ask her. Anyway, but I do remember her saying and holding, she was like holding us and she was like, I don't think that was Jean. Anyway, this particular story happened within like a week or two of school starting. So I was starting my first year in high school. At the end of the day, on our first day of high school, my mom shows up and we're like, I usually take the bus from like Mount Pleasant down to where I used to live. So her showing up was just rare. So I get in the car and she says, I just have something to tell you. And I said, okay. She's like, Jean died. And I said, when? And she said, 2 weeks ago. And that's funny because I saw her a week ago at the fucking window. And my mom, as much as she doesn't want to admit it or like to admit it because she's a very religious woman, she's very Catholic, she is a knower or a seer or a something. But after I said, there's no way, she's like, yeah, she was dead when you saw her at that window. That wasn't her, that was her spirit. I couldn't sleep for a solid year after that. Shortly after this news, I was downstairs in my room watching TV and I hear my sister coming down. And she's like, Kayla. She's calling out for me. And I tell her I'm in the room. She comes in and she's like, I just saw Jean walk from one side of the room, another room, to like vanishing into the fucking wall. And I'm like, this is it. That was it. It disturbed me for so long. And it marked such a pivotal point in my adolescence. Like, From that point on, the experiences were out of this world. So I accidentally clicked my camera twice and it turned. And this is here. And if you know this painting, it's the Prince of Peace. I think I should tell you the story on why I even have this. So if you're interested in hearing any more of my stories, please feel free to let me know. Even if you don't, I think I might share it anyway. It's just very interesting. But as I said in the previous clip, this was a pivotal point in my life, and everything started coming out the fucking bag. Okay, so excuse my language. Oh, sorry. All right. Stay tuned, I guess. Peace.
Whew, I almost went back there and got my bed, y'all. I almost forgot to give y'all this story time. So remember, this is not my story time. This is someone else's story time. They private messaged me. And if you would like to private message me and give me your story time, I don't mind telling it. All right, let's get into it. Now, this woman who gave me her story time is from South Carolina. She said that right now, the land that they own, her and her family, they've been owning this land for over 100 years. And right now it's being renovated. So she really, because of the renovation, I guess it sparked something, and she really wanted to know the family history. So she started asking her parents questions, and they kept tiptoeing. They really didn't want to give her any information. So she decided to give up on them, and she went ahead and she went to her great aunt. Now, when she got to the great aunt, and she started asking questions, the great aunt, whenever you ask older people questions, older people as in like 80s, 90s, they always get excited because it's just taking them back to the happiest times of their lives. And so she said that once she asked the great aunt, like, okay, so what's the saddest thing that happened on this land? She said the great aunt just stopped and looked at her and she said, I remember this black man worked for my father. And he no longer wanted to work for my father. He had gotten him a new job. And she said that he told her father, I'm sorry, but I have a different job now. And her father was so upset, he talked about it for days. And she said days went by, and she remembers her father waking her up in the middle of the night and putting her in the truck. And she said she remembers his buddies. They were following behind him. And they pulled up somewhere and she had no idea where. And she started looking around and she said that she was confused. So she said that it all like made sense once her father and his buddies went into this house and they brought out this man. And the man was the black man that worked for her father who had just quit. She said that they took that man from out of his home with his wife and his children and they lynched him. And once they lynched him, she said that her father pretty much tried to act like it was no big deal. But she said after they lynched that man, she saw him every single day. Now, she really starts to remember when she was sleeping in her bed. And she said that he really pretty much was torturing her every single night. He didn't allow her to get any sleep. And when she did try to sleep and she did fall asleep, he would shake the bed and he would knock things over. Now, she said one night when she couldn't sleep, she went and got her father and she said, I can't sleep because that man is in there and he keeps on, waking me up. And so the dad was like, it's all your imagination. You're tripping, pretty much. You're tripping. So to put her at ease, he decided to sleep in her room on the floor. And she says when he slept on the floor, her great aunt said that she woke up to him being yanked out of her room by his leg and being pulled down the hall. She said she ran to the door, she looked down the hall, and she could see that man that he had lynched. Now, when she got to the end of the hall, she checked on her father and, asking him if he's okay, and he couldn't stand up because his ankle was broken. So what's been happening recently with this young woman is because of the renovation, her and her family have been finding things. So she said that she found one of those little statue things, where they painted them black and had a little red thing tied around the head. Not I don't know if they call it Jemima things or what, but I know that they weren't good things to have. So basically, she said she found that, and her mom was just like, "Oh, they're worth a lot of money. You know, you should go ahead and just take it home, and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to sell it." Y'all, homegirl took it home, okay? And she said when she took it home, she said she had such a bad migraine, she just couldn't get rid of it. So she decided that she was going to just take a nap, took some Tylenol, took a nap, and she said when she woke up, she saw a black man. Now, mind you, she lives alone. And she don't got no black boyfriend, no black husband, none of that. I asked her all those questions. But she said that she saw this man. And she said that now she can't get rid of him. She said her family, they aren't religious. She didn't grow up in church. She doesn't know what to do. And, at a time like this, she just has no clue. But she really wanted some pointers. And baby, I am so sorry. I don't know what to do. You said you got rid of the object and he's still there. So you really need to, I'm speechless. You really need to find someone who can come and bless the home for you to get rid of him. Because if he can hurt your father's ankle like that, do you understand how vengeful this spirit is? Oh, Lord. So this woman ended up telling her family members about what happened. She went back to her great aunt and she told her great aunt, like, "Oh, I found these little, things with the renovation." And the great aunt started to describe what she found. And she said, "Oh, yeah, we had lots of those in the house, sitting on the shelves. So you done took this thing home, baby." And now he was connected to that. And even though you got rid of it, he said he found him a new home. That's pretty much what he said. Now, she also said that she said something to her other family members about it, but like she said, they're not religious. They don't believe in stuff like this. So, of course, they're not going to know what to do in in a situation like this. And to her surprise, she said that her great aunt told her, "Oh, yeah, I told my dad about it. I told your parents about it. I told them, a long time ago that I saw this man after he was lynched." And everybody pretty much just think the great aunt is kooky. They think she out of her mind, honey. They think that woman is far gone. Okay?
The creepiest thing happened to us last night, and I need y'all's opinion. My husband had planned a date night last night, and I called him letting him know that I was on my way home to drop off some stuff, and then I will be on my way to go pick up the kids. He said okay, but he said that he had noticed a very large nail in one of our tires. He said he would be driving to Walmart to buy a plug to plug the tire, and then he'd come home. My mom had taken my kids to a birthday party, so I was on my way to the party to pick up my kids. And while I'm there, my husband tells me that on his way to Walmart, he somehow got a razor blade stuck on the same tire where he had already gotten a nail in. He literally said, "It's okay. I'm gonna change the tire to the spare tire. We're not gonna let this ruin our night. Everything's fine. We're still gonna go out tonight." I was like, okay. My mother-in-law was gonna watch the kids for us, and I was on my way to her house. And as I'm getting my son down, he is burning up in a fever. I was at this birthday party for a while, and he was literally fine. He was playing, he was eating, he was perfectly fine. But now that I was ready to drop them off for about an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours, he was burning up in fever. So I called my husband and I'm like, "Hey, we're not going nowhere tonight. Something is weird. Our son has a fever. We're not going nowhere." I get home last night and sure enough, he has a fever. This was his temperature last night, and this is the tire in question. Right there is the nail that my husband first got, and that right there is the razor blade. How did this happen? So what was going on? Was there someone, was it the universe, something trying to prevent us from going somewhere? Because first it's the nail, then the razor blade. My husband was adamant. He's like, "It's okay. Nothing's gonna ruin our night. I'll change the tire. Everything's fine." And if you know me, you know that if my children are sick, I'm stopping the world. I'm calling in. I'm not going nowhere. I need to tend to my children. And lo and behold, my son gets a fever out of nowhere. What do you guys think? Do you think this is a coincidence? You think the universe or something was trying to get us not to go anywhere? Let me know what y'all think.
Okay, so I'm back with another story time. This is my personal story time, and it's a scary story time. Well, I guess you could call it scary. But I recorded this video like 6 times on my phone. And for some reason, it's just not recording it. Like when I finish doing the whole video, it's just disappearing. So I'm gonna record it on my iPad. It's the day of my grandma's funeral. I was like 7, 8, or 9. I don't know which number. I just know I was between those ages. So we in the city at my grandma from my mother's side of the family now, right? We at her house, and my parents asked me if I wanted to go to my grandma, my grandma's funeral. She was my dad's mom. So I'm like, at that age, I didn't really like funerals like that, so I didn't want to go because I just didn't like funerals like that. Plus, it was just like I was in a good mood. You know, I was a kid, I was playing, and then I didn't want to go and be sad for the rest of the day. So my parents was like, okay, cool. We're not going to force you to come. So they go. I'm not sure if they brought all my other siblings because they was way younger than me. But fast forward to like 7, 8 at night, right? So now we at my grandmother that passed away's apartment. Everybody is there. When I tell you everybody, I mean everybody, even family members that I probably never even met before. It's so many of us in the house that like not all of us could sit, but we're all in the living room. Some of us are standing, some of us are like kind of in the living room but kind of in the kitchen because it's right beside each other. But yeah, so we all chilling, we talking about my grandmother, and everybody's talking about like, you know, the stuff that they loved about her, also the stuff that they didn't understand why she did or why she said or anything like that. Like everybody's sharing a memory they had with her, talking about the bittersweet moments. Now there's a phone that's in the living room, and then she had her own phone in her room, and her room wasn't too far from the living room. Like you could see if somebody went in her room. Nobody was in her room. Like I said, everybody was in the living room. So in the middle of us talking, we get interrupted by a call, and the call is coming from the phone in her room. So everybody's just looking at the phone for like a good 5 seconds quietly. Like whoever was talking just stopped talking. And my dad does not like stuff like that. So he's just looking at the phone and he's telling everybody do not answer it. But, you know, my mom being the complete opposite of him, curiosity girl, she over here like, yeah, answer the phone. So, and then me being the age I was, wanting to always play fucking scary games, I'm over here like, yeah, like, answer the phone. We answer the phone, and when we answer the phone, all you can hear is air, because it's like one of those old-fashioned Hispanic people phones. Well, I don't, yeah, so, if you know, you know. Okay, don't take that personal. But, yeah, so, you don't hear talking, you don't hear whispering, you don't hear breathing, you don't hear movement, you don't hear nothing, you just hear the air. So we on the phone for like a good minute, like 60 seconds. We on the phone and we didn't hang up because my aunt had placed the phone onto the table. The phone hangs up by itself. So that means whoever was on the other line hung up the phone. But I personally think that that was my grandmother calling us, because like I said, we was talking about her, we was talking about good things and bad things, like, but like we laughing at it and shit, and she called like, y'all in my motherfucking house talking about me, I'm still here, like. So yeah, that's my little scary story time. My mom though, she has scary stories for days. Like her scary stories is some shit that should be in a movie. But if y'all want those two, just let me know.
Want to hear a really creepy and unsettling story? Cool. When I was about 5, my mom took me to my first concert, and it was like probably 4 and a half hours away from where we lived. And we drove in the minivan, and my mom took some stuff into the concert, just like her driver's license, ID, and some cash. And when we came back out to our minivan, the windows were smashed and everything was stolen out. So like a coat that my mom had, something of mine, I don't even remember, all the cash she had in there, and then credit cards. And I don't remember well, but I would say she probably filed some sort of police report. I don't remember. I just remember like getting home and telling my dad and whatever. I was very young. I don't really remember. But something about my mom is she goes running every morning at very, very early in the morning. She runs. And so it's dark and whatever. And about now, keep in mind, 4.5 hours away. We live about 4.5 hours away from where this initially happened. Don't really hear much from the police. Don't really hear much about it again. Got the cards canceled, whatever. I don't remember. But she's running. We're back home. It's about 2 months later. She's running, and she's running past where these stairs go down into what would be like a basement entrance of like this big building that's in our town. And she's running past there and something catches her eye and she looks down the stairwell and what caught her eye was her own winter coat that had been stolen. And so she walks down the stairwell and everything is down there. The cash, the cards, the coat, everything that had been stolen from the van. Now, many weird things about this. One, they gave everything back. That's extremely weird. Didn't spend $1 of the cash. What was the point of taking anything? Two, the other thing that's really weird is her ID was with her the whole time. That was never stolen. So they would have never had a way to figure out our address. Obviously, you would assume that they also lived about 4.5 hours away, where the concert took place. So how did they come to our town to discard of the stuff that they didn't use anything, that they stole, but they never did anything with, and put it in a random stairwell that she was going to run past, that she ran past every morning? Were they following us? It's kind of what it sounds like to me. It sounds to me that they either did find a way to find her address and for whatever reason, out of the goodness of their heart, thought, well, we'll just ditch it in her town somewhere and hope that she finds it. But this was like 1999, 2000, 2001, whatever. So there was a lot less ways to find out where people lived at that time. You couldn't really just like Google search them. Maybe you could, I don't know, but I would assume there was a lot less information about people out there at the time. So the fact that they decided to discard of the stuff that they didn't use in her town has never sat right with me. A case that's never sat right with me, and like we just like never heard anything about it again. Weird.
I just saw a video of a woman talking about how she and her friends went out to the club one night and they meet a famous guy, and the famous guy invites them to their penthouse. And the long and short is they end up having to run from this man and his security team because they could hear through his penthouse door the men's plan to like hide them, lock them into rooms, steal their phones, and tie them up. The part of that story that stuck out for me was how many men were involved. Because it's the initial famous guy, and then when they start running, 2 security guards are chasing them down a hallway. And then when they get down to the first floor, the bellman is trying to keep them from leaving the building. And the front desk guy is also trying to prevent them from leaving. When I hear about the violence that happens to women, and I think about the violence that I have experienced at the hands of men, the only thing that I can think about is how many other men are involved in perpetuating or upholding this type of behavior. This famous man was not doing this by himself. He had at least 4 other people involved in this plan to kidnap these women. Like, I don't know what stake in this game the bellman and the front desk guy had, but like, at what point do y'all use your frontal lobes to go, they leaving, bro? Like, that's it. Go find somebody else. There are so many people to support, uphold, and perpetuate this kind of behavior that nobody even thinks about how violent that is. That's crazy. Like, that, hearing that story, the only thing I got out of it is like, men are gonna hold men down to allow men to be terrible. And I need a lot more of y'all to speak up. The same way that it shouldn't be black people's jobs to educate white people about white privilege and the violence that white people inflict, white people should be educating other white people. The same goes for men. I'm gonna need men to have these conversations with men so that they can stop perpetuating this kind of violence. Because I'm very sick of seeing women having these conversations to try to keep us safe, when the people that should be having these conversations about how to maintain safety from the hands of men should be other men. Y'all talk all this stuff about how y'all want to save people. Get to
Imagine going to a funeral and then something from that funeral follows you home. What's up, cousins? I know it's been a long time, but we're not going to even get into that, all right? We're talking about the present. So your girl is back with another story time, so let's not waste no time and let's get into it. For this story time, we're gonna call him Josh. So Josh ended up going to a funeral around 11:30 in the morning. He got back home around 2 p.m. So he goes home, he gets comfortable, he started watching a movie on his TV. Now, the movie that he's watching is on cable, so it has the ad breaks that comes up. So he said once the ad break came in, your screen turns black. While the TV is black for them couple seconds, he saw someone or something standing in his kitchen. Whatever this was staring right at him watch the TV. Josh said whatever this thing was, he felt like it understood that he know it was there because it started to back away. So when Josh got up and went into the kitchen, nothing was there. He said so after that point, he ended up lighting some incense in the kitchen and later on that night, just going to bed. So as Josh is sleeping, he woke up from a loud scream in his left ear to see a shadow standing in his room. Not only did he see the shadow, he heard people arguing in his hallway. He said it was about 3 people, although he lives by himself. At that point, he did just end up praying and eventually falling back to sleep. So the next morning, he gets up, he's getting ready for work. So he said as he's doing his hygiene stuff, he feels a gush of wind rush past him. Josh peeked his head out the bathroom door. He didn't see anything. So he said at that point, he just wrapped everything up and he went ahead and went to work. Now, when Josh returned home, he noticed every single light in his home was turned on, which he know that before he left, he never even turned the lights on because it was daytime. He didn't need them. At this point, Josh is tired. He just goes to the house, turn everything off, hop in the shower, get ready for bed. So before he gets into bed, his thing is watching TV in his living room. So again, he sits on his couch and he began watching one of his TV shows. So at this point, Josh started to doze off. So he was woken up because his TV volume turned up so loud to where it woke him up. So he grabbed his remote and he tried to turn the TV down. It's not working. He tries to turn it off. It's not working. So he had to get up and unplug the TV for it to stop. So at this point, he goes upstairs to get in his bed and he dozes off. So as he's sleeping, he's woken up because he hears scratching within his pillow. And right now, he's terrified. So he doesn't even move. He just continues to listen to the scratches until he felt a hand slide down the back of his head. He said the way that he jumped up out of that bed because he was so scared. After that, he saw his pillow fly across the room. Josh said right after that happened, he packed up what he could and he left the house and never returned. So again, y'all, a little tip: whenever you go to a funeral home or a graveyard or a cemetery, cover your head. But anyway, if you guys have any spooky stories, paranormal stories, or interesting stories that you want to send me, send it to my DM or send it to the email that's in my bio. Until then, until next story time, enjoy this one.